Long Chen was enraged. Was there no end to this nonsense? Did the divine families have nothing better to do? Long Chen grabbed the whip with his hand. It was made of metal and covered in tiny barbs. If it did strike someone, it would tear off a layer of flesh. A person who can make me kneel and get out of their way has yet to be born in this world, sneered Long Chen. He pulled, causing the master of the whip to come flying out. It was a man wearing white robes. He looked young but was already at the third step of nether passage. The white-robed man hadn't expected the black-robed man in their way to be so brazen as to actually attack. Courting death. As he was pulled in, he unleashed a kick at Long Chen's face. His previous attack with the whip was not a killing blow, but this kick clearly showed that he didn't care if Long Chen lived or died. Long Chen don't, he dashed, shouted the warrior of the Heavenly Dragon Legion accompanying him. He had a knee on the ground just like everyone else. Long Chen didn't wait for him to finish talking. His left foot was an axis as his right foot whipped through the air at that person's jaw. Despite moving second, his attack landed first. The white-robed man was startled and hastily blocked with his hand. As a result, he was sent flying. However, the surprising thing to Long Chen was that he was so powerful that his arm wasn't broken as Long Chen had expected. The whip left the white-robed man's hand, and Long Chen actually swung it at him while holding the tip. His expression didn't change, but the power of his astral spaces began to circulate into the whip. The white-robed man felt a mix of shock and anger. Long Chen was attacking his face just like how he had aimed for Long Chen's face at the start. This was clearly intentional. His expression sank, and he grabbed his weapon. Having his weapon taken was a humiliation. However, when he grabbed the handle of his whip, he felt some energy explode within it. His arm trembled. His sleeve exploded, while his palm became bloody, with several of his fingers broken. They were identical attacks, but Long Chen had received his attack so easily. Brazen interloper, you must want to die. The white-robed man's manifestation suddenly appeared behind him, and a powerful pressure cascaded down. That pressure was even greater than what the 7th commander of the Heavenly Dragon Legion could unleash. That startled Long Chen inside. This person looked so young, but his cultivation base and combat power were so powerful. You're the one courting death. If you still don't appreciate my kindness, I don't mind helping you achieve your dream of dying. Long Chen tossed the whip to the side and clasped his hands behind his back. He stared coldly at the white-robed man. As long as the latter dared to attack, Long Chen would kill him. That gaze made the white-robed man's heart shiver. His intuition was telling him that he was in danger. However, in the end, his whip lit up and attacked once more. Long Chen smiled coldly. The divine families were truly powerful. Even such a powerful third-step nether passage expert could be sacrificed for him to play with. Hold it! Just as Long Chen was about to take Evil Moon out, an icy woman's voice rang out, and that made the white-robed man instantly halt. The voice was as beautiful as birdsong, but it also contained an icy arrogance of someone far above others. Senior, this person was so arrogant and ignorant as to block your great carriage. Please permit me to execute him as a warning to others. The white-robed man turned and bowed toward the distance. At this moment, Long Chen saw a golden chariot appear behind the white-robed man. It looked incredibly luxurious. The curtains were drawn, so he couldn't see who was inside. But there were hundreds of experts around it like attendants, and he saw 3 other white-robed men, most likely on the same level as the one he was fighting. Senior Feng Fei, please. Long Chen is from the Martial Heaven continent and is unfamiliar with the customs of the divine families, said the Heavenly Dragon Legion warrior. You are Long Chen? The woman inside the carriage ignored the warrior, directly asking Long Chen. Why ask a question when you already know the answer? Long Chen frowned. Just what was wrong with the people of the divine families? Was there a point in asking such a question? Impudence. When Senior Feng Fei asks you a question, you better answer properly, shouted one of the white-robed men standing beside the carriage. Don't shout at me. My temper's not very good. Even a dog should learn how to judge others, or once they're turned into stew, not even their master will be able to save them, understood? Sneered Long Chen. Long Chen was most irritated with dogs like this who shouted from the side before their masters could even say anything. It gave him an urge to slap them all to death. You! Everyone's expressions changed. The attendants of the carriage were all filled with killing intent. As long as the woman gave the order, they would pounce and tear him to pieces. Just as the rumors say, you really are a dung-covered rock, irritating and hard. Since this is your first time in the divine families and you don't know the rules, I won't quibble with you. Let's go. I have more important matters. The white-robed man glared at Long Chen, indicating to him to just wait, before returning to his procession and leaving. When the carriage passed by Long Chen, through the window's light muslin, he saw a faint figure. He just saw an outline, but it still gave off a feeling of immense beauty. That entire procession entered the transportation formation. The fluctuations of the transportation were particularly intense. From how intense they were, it seemed that they weren't going to the martial heaven continent. The procession vanished to an unknown location. Only once they were gone did the surrounding experts stand. The heavenly dragon warrior was covered in sweat. That had clearly given him a bad fright. It's my life, and I wasn't afraid. So what were you so afraid of? Asked Long Chen. The warrior bitterly smiled. You don't know, but Senior Feng Fei is an extremely terrifying existence. If you give her a bad impression, don't expect to have a good time in the divine families. Let's go see Elder Long. The two of them left. Only when there was no one else around did he whisper, Senior Apprentice Brother Long Chen, are you aware that people are split into 4 ranks amongst the divine families? What 4 ranks? The first rank is the main bloodlines. The second is the collateral relatives, the third is the branch families, and the fourth are those outer branches hidden within the martial heaven continent. Although we heavenly dragon warriors might look mighty to the outside world, in truth, we're only from the 3rd rank, sighed the heavenly dragon warrior. Senior Apprentice Brother Long Chen, you cannot tell anyone that I told you this. Don't worry, I'm not so talkative. So people like you are only of the 3rd rank? I don't understand, why do the divine families have to split people up like this? Is that really something good? Asked Long Chen. Long Chen truly didn't quite understand. Weren't such classifications only going to breed resentment and conflict? 4 3rd rankers like us, we are from the branch relatives and have impure bloodlines. As for the outer branches, they aren't even related. They just have the name. The 2nd rankers have purer bloodlines, but it is the main bloodlines that are the purest. And the people you just encountered were from there. Those experts all have the power of commanders. As for the one inside the carriage, that was Feng Fei. She is exceptional even amongst the main bloodlines. They are going hunting within the forbidden region of the ancient battlefield, and only experts on Feng Fei's level are qualified to go there. Anyone else would just be sending themselves to their deaths. Even the heavenly dragon warrior had an expression of worship when he spoke about Feng Fei. Long Chen had an urge to ask what she looked like, but he swallowed that back down. Asking that wasn't important. The two of them walked for an incense stick's worth of time before arriving at another transportation formation, one that was even larger and had 4 gates to the north, east, west, and south. The heavenly dragon warrior led him through the south gate. The divine families are composed of 4 powers, while we of the 8th Legion belong to the Long family. As for the Yi family, I don't need to explain much. The 2 families are constantly fighting. As for the other 2, it's not for me to say. You can discuss it with Elder Long, said the heavenly dragon warrior. Long Chen nodded to express his thanks. It seemed that this person was one of Shen Qingfeng's trusted aides, or he wouldn't have exposed so much about the divine families to him. Space twisted, and they appeared in a new place once more. This time, Long Chen saw a familiar face. Ha, Long Chen, we meet again. It was the 8th commander, Shen Qingfeng. He appeared worn out, but he smiled when he saw Long Chen. Come, Elder Long had me wait for you. Shen Qingfeng took the place of the heavenly dragon warrior, bringing Long Chen away on a flying boat deep within a mountain range. The world of the divine families is probably the same as the entire martial heaven continent. Seeing how big it is, I even suspected that this is the major world, while the martial heaven continent is just a minor world, said Long Chen deliberately as he watched endless mountains pass by them. As expected, Shen Chengfeng said, this world of the divine families is still a minor world. You only think that the martial heaven continent is small because it is damaged. So you're saying that it is incomplete? Asked Long Chen. Yes. The martial heaven continent is no longer a complete star. It is less than 1/100th of its original size, said Shen Chengfeng, seemingly unaware of Long Chen's probing for information. Then that battle from the immortal era must have been one that could destroy heaven and earth, said Long Chen. It was called the Battle of the Gods, and it had caused the martial heaven continent to become incomplete. After that battle, the martial heaven continent had started to recover, but then the first dark era had come. Then the second and the third. Every dark era caused immense damage to the continent. Countless ancient tomes and inheritances were destroyed, lost to time. History became muddled. Now, there was no longer any way to confirm anything that had happened back then. People could only make their own judgments as to what was fiction and what was real. However, Long Chen believed that the divine families had managed to retain a complete history of what had happened, so he was probing Shen Chengfeng. Yes, the battle of the gods was apocalyptic. They were the true experts, said Shen Chengfeng. However, Shen Chengfeng didn't say anything further about those gods. Theoretically, people who knew such history would like to tell a bit of it to others to prove their own learning, but Shen Chengfeng didn't. It was unknown if he didn't know, or if it was taboo to mention it. Just as Long Chen was pondering how he could extract more information from him, a range of giant mountains appeared ahead of them. They were steep and tall, looking like swords stabbing into the sky. These mountains were made of tough stone, and there were many caves built into them. Those caves all looked ancient and mysterious. The two of them were sitting in a large flying boat, but in the face of these mountains, they appeared especially small. There are a total of 99 heaven spirit peaks. Every one of them is supported by formations to make cultivating inside much faster than on the martial heaven continent. The energy of the heavenly Daos is also concentrated to make comprehension easier. This is why I feel great admiration for the geniuses on the continent. You're all born at a starting line so much further back than us, but within that bitter environment, you still manage to claw yourselves out. You're the real geniuses. If you were born in the divine families and had these resources, your accomplishments would be far greater, said Shen Chengfeng. Shen Chengfeng had only reached his current level thanks to these superior conditions. The difference was immense. Long Chen smiled. I've never believed in that starting line thing. Cultivation is a marathon with no end. You run until you die. Running quickly and being ahead of others isn't necessarily a good thing. Although it makes others envious, it makes you a target as well. If you're slower, it's much more stable. You'll understand what it means to accumulate resources for success and have the power to go all out later. Such a person can soar with just one opportunity. This made Long Chen think of Ling Yunzi. He was a typical case of how a flash of insight could cause someone to soar. Long Chen, that vision and wisdom is truly admirable. You must be joking, right? Everyone knows that when my head gets hot, I'll jump into laughably childish traps. Shen Chengfeng laughed along with Long Chen. That was true. When provoked, Long Chen would easily jump into other people's traps. After laughing, he gradually grew solemn. The interior of the divine families has a very strict bloodline ranking. Long Chen, if you wish to obtain more from the divine families, you have to learn how to endure. The divine families do not like outsiders. You fought with one of Senior Feng Fei's guards, but she didn't wish to quibble with you. If she had, you would be in trouble. What kind of trouble? Would the divine families go back on their promise to me? Worse. You would be defeated and very likely killed. Oh. Shen Chengfeng sighed. You might not be able to accept it when it's just me saying that, but you will slowly come to understand just how deep the foundation of the divine families is. Feng Fei comes from the Jiang family. If it was one of the other families, the Long family would be able to support you. But the Jiang family is something even the Long family cannot provoke. That's why I felt like I should warn you. I feel like your best shot at soaring is by working together with the Long family. Just at this moment, the flying boat arrived halfway up a giant mountain. There was a terrace there. Long Chen, Elder Long is inside. I was planning on going after bringing you here, but I feel like I'll probably be leaving with you, said Shin Chengfeng. Long Chen didn't know what he was referring to. They walked into a large cave with a palace built inside it. Long Chen, you've been busy. You only arrived at this time. Long Chen heard Elder Long's voice as soon as he walked inside. He saw Elder Long and another elder sitting to the side, facing the central seat inside the palace. A very lean old man was sitting there. The man looked like an ancient scholar. Although he saw him right there, Long Chen was unable to sense his existence. It felt like he was one with heaven and earth. Above Nether Passage. Long Chen's heart shook. As expected, the divine families had existences above the Nether Passage realm. This old man's eyes were turbid, but in the instant that their eyes met, Long Chen felt like he had been seen through completely. This was a terrifying expert, someone who had reached a height that Long Chen could not comprehend. Long Chen, is it? Excellent. In a place with so few resources like the Martial Heaven continent, you were able to walk to this point with your own efforts. Even throughout all of history, there haven't been many capable of doing such a thing. No wonder even a sovereign favors you, said the old man. Many thanks, senior, for your praise. This junior was only able to reach this point through luck, said Long Chen modestly. Even he had to be a bit reserved in the face of such an expert. Luck? Based on what I know, your luck has never been good. Youngsters don't need to suppress their own light. If you waste your youth on the conservativeness of the old, it's not a good thing. Sharpness should be unleashed, or it signifies the end of your martial path is drawing near. The elders smiled kindly. Many thanks for senior's teachings. Long Chen cupped his fists. Long Chen, let me introduce you. This is our Long family's deputy elder. Other than the head of the family, he is the one with the greatest authority in the Long family, said Elder Long. Other than the family head, there were 4 deputy elders with the greatest authority. If the 4 of them were united, they could even overrule the family head. This particular deputy elder was the leader of the 4 of them, having an extremely high status. Long Chen, I know of your past. I very much like your character and how you act. With the Dark Era coming, it is time to be united against invading races. The Long family is willing to give you some help. I would like to tell you that the Star-Field Divine World is to be open soon. If we're fast, it should be open in half a month, but it could take up to a month. You and your Dragonblood Legion should prepare yourselves, said the deputy elder. Other than that, I also wanted to see you personally. Elder Long has told me much about your excellence, and I also find you very satisfactory. Due to Elder Long praising you as a powerful force in your own right and as a leader, I would like to ask you to go to the ancient battlefield. Things have been difficult there recently. Shen Chengfeng returned to request reinforcements, and it just so happens that you are here as well. I would like to ask you to go with Shen Chengfeng there. As for what to do, I'm sure you understand. You wish for me to command the 8th Heavenly Dragon Legion? Isn't that too much? I'm not familiar with the fighters or environment or even the enemies. How am I supposed to lead them? Asked Long Chen. It seemed that the deputy elder was probing his commanding skills. After all, Elder Long had said that if he did well, the divine families would consider letting him direct the battle against the Dark Era. Difficult doesn't mean impossible. Only difficult things are worth doing. We will quietly wait for your good news, said the deputy elder. Long Chen left, still stunned. This had come out of nowhere. He hadn't even had a chance to ask what was inside the Star-Field Divine World before being given this task. Outside, Shen Chengfeng was waiting for him. Once the 2 of them were gone, Elder Long asked, "How is this child?" His eyes made me think of another wild and uncontrollable fellow. It's a pity, the deputy elder sighed, a bitter light filling his turbid eyes. Elder Long and the other elder exchanged a glance, also thinking of that person. My prediction was right. It seems that we'll get to fight alongside each other. Seeing Long Chen come out, Shen Chengfeng laughed, having already predicted this result. The deputy elder must have a high opinion of me. If even you couldn't resolve the problem, what am I supposed to do? Long Chen shook his head with a bitter smile. You can't put it like that. To tell the truth, I really admire your leadership skills. When I came to ask for reinforcements, I wanted the divine families to send some experts to help me reclaim lost territory, but they wanted me to handle it myself. However, due to guarding the yin-yang world back then, the 8th Legion's defenses weakened to the point that our enemies charged through, which I don't think can be blamed on us. Now we have to handle the result, so I'm quite unhappy with that. This is already the 3rd time I've come to bother the divine families for help, and it seems that I've found the solution. I think that you're even better than those experts. We don't like their irritating faces, said Xin Qingfeng as he brought Long Chen away. You have such confidence in me? You should know that I have no confidence at all in this, said Long Chen. Actually, it's not as difficult as you imagine. If the 8th Legion wished to reclaim that territory, we'd definitely be able to do it. But it would come at a terrible price. Don't you think having us sacrifice so much for something that wasn't our fault is difficult to bear? Would you do it? That's true. Whoever caused the trouble should bear the consequences, said Long Chen. Exactly. If the divine families had sent reinforcements, we could have taken back our territory easily. But the other 3 families might cause trouble if the Long family interfered in the so-called fair competition. So this matter has stalled until now. It's a nice surprise for me that you're the one I ended up getting as help after all this time, said Xin Qingfeng with a laugh. The 2 of them arrived at the transportation formation that Feng Fei had gone through as well. Shen Qingfeng took out a jade tablet to activate the formation. Are we going to the same place as Feng Fei? As soon as Long Chen mentioned Feng Fei, the surrounding experts of the divine families glared at him furiously, unable to accept that he had called her directly by her name. No, Senior Feng Fei went into the depths of the ancient battlefield, while we're just going to the outer edges, said Xin Qingfeng. Space shuddered. Long Chen felt like his body was being wrung. Space continued to whirl around them until he was dizzy. This transportation formation is always like this. Building any kind of transportation formation through the ancient battlefield is difficult as the spatial laws there are broken. There's no way to make it steady like other transportation formations, said Xin Qingfeng. They were within the twisting space for a full incense stick's worth of time before Long Chen found himself in a desolate world. Long Chen's hair instantly stood on end. Not that far from where they came out was a giant spatial crack. The space around the crack was twisting violently. It looked like a gaping maw. From within that spatial crack, he sensed the aura of a terrifying sword Dao. This sword Dao intent remains after so many years. Long Chen was shocked. This spatial crack was clearly left from a sword but had yet to be healed even after the cleansing of the river of time. Xin Qingfeng nodded. It's pretty amazing that you can look at it directly. The first time I arrived, just looking at it left me with a headache for 3 months. Even now, I can't look at it directly. The rumor is that this was an attack left behind by a human master of the Sword Dao right before his death, and it contains his entire Sword Dao. The reason the transportation formation is set up here is to temper the wills of the disciples. All the disciples who come here for the first time receive a shock to their souls from looking at it. But it is said that the worse the impact is, the greater it will benefit them. I don't know if that's a lie or not because I didn't feel any significant improvement after that headache. Long Chen smiled. It's not a lie. The will behind this sword is a kind of inheritance. This senior left behind the pride and tenacity of his sword Dao, showing off the unyielding purity of his existence as a sword cultivator. To be injured by this will is to be infected by it. Although it won't increase your combat power, it will cleanse your heart, allowing you to more easily abandon your distracting thoughts and desires. Now that you say that, it seems that it's true. I was just a middling existence when I first joined the Heavenly Dragon Legion, and I was quite competitive and jealous of those above us. I almost got kicked out several times. But after coming here, it seems that I did grow calmer. I thought it was just the headache making me focus on recuperating, but I kept that focus on cultivation afterward too. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that Long Chen was right. He had thought that he was being punished and forced to look at it, but it was only afterward that he had started to feel great reverence for the ancient battlefield and those who had fought on it. Oh, isn't that Commander Shin? I hear you went back to ask for reinforcements again. Did you end up coming back with nothing again? Just as Long Chen and Shen Chengfeng were talking, the transportation formation behind them lit up. Two experts walked out. One of them had quite the cutting mouth. The fact that the 8th Heavenly Dragon Legion had lost their territory and been forced to the second line of defense was known by the entirety of the Heavenly Dragon Legions. Before this, Long Chen hadn't noticed it, but Shen Chengfeng had a small immortal character within the embroidered design on his chest. These two also had similar characters. There were 4 different colors of this character: bronze, silver, gold, and dark gold. Bronze was for the ordinary warriors, silver was for the squad leaders, and gold was for vice commanders. Dark gold was reserved for the commanders. These two both had the number 3 on their chests, indicating that they came from the 3rd Heavenly Dragon Legion. The gold color indicated that they were vice commanders. The two of them were clearly intent on causing trouble for Shen Chengfeng. The other vice commander looked at Long Chen with surprise. "Little fellow, don't tell me that you're the reinforcements? You just entered the Nether Passage realm. Haha, it seems that the Long family has truly declined." Shen Chengfeng's expression finally sank. He had no choice but to accept it when others mocked him because the 8th Heavenly Dragon Legion had become a laughingstock for losing its territory. He walked away, ignoring them. However, Long Chen looked at him oddly. "Do the divine families also have a lot of such idiots?" "Yes, as many as on the Martial Heaven continent." Shen Chengfeng shrugged helplessly. "All right then." Long Chen curled his mouth. People remained the same no matter where he went. The two of them didn't get on a flying boat. Flying boats were impacted by the unstable space and were much slower. The two of them traveled on their own, walking past the desolate surroundings. Everything was a mess. There were collapsed mountains and rubble everywhere. There wasn't the slightest air of vitality. Occasionally, spatial cracks would appear along with black holes. Suddenly, a roar came from within one of those black holes, causing Long Chen to jump. Shen Chengfeng explained, "No need to panic. That sound was left behind by the ancient battle. The master of it has long since died. The battle from back then destroyed the laws of space and time, so some strange things pop up. Even the sounds ended up passing through the river of time. It's truly worthy of being called a battlefield of gods," said Long Chen. "Actually, strange phenomena will appear quite often. Sometimes you'll hear shouting or bestial roaring. There have been times where people see strange things. To put it bluntly, you will encounter countless unimaginable things here. The experts of that time are not existences we can comprehend. Although there are countless dangers here, there are also countless opportunities. You should understand how important the ancient battlefield is just based on the fact that the entrance has always been kept under the control of the divine families. It can be said that one reason for the divine family's success is due to the ancient battlefield." Shen Chengfeng smiled mysteriously. "So the divine families are treating this battlefield as a big piece of meat. After being gnawed on for so many years, there's probably not much left," said Long Chen. That's where you're wrong. The ancient battlefield continues to give us countless surprises. Sometimes, experts will leave their inheritances within a minor world right before dying. If you can find the entrance, you can receive that inheritance. Such things are littered throughout the ancient battlefield, but they can only be found by luck. Even after all these years, the divine families have only managed to explore a portion of this place. There is also the demon race blocking us from going deeper. They are a constant disturbance. So this ancient battlefield can be considered a treasure house, but we don't have the ability to take all the treasures out. My guess is that after the Star-Field Divine World is opened, the next step will be to open the ancient battlefield to the continent." Suddenly, rumbling erupted ahead of them. A cloud of dust soared. Shen Chengfeng's expression instantly changed. "That's the camp of the 8th Legion. They're being attacked." Shen Chengfeng and Long Chen hastily rushed over, and countless large figures quickly appeared within their vision. They were fighting the Heavenly Dragon Legion. What surprised Long Chen was that while these beasts didn't look different from magical beasts, their auras were completely different. They instead seemed a bit similar to the sea demon race. Those beasts were gigantic and seemed to be pressing down on the Heavenly Dragon Legion. Giant arrow towers were set up in a defensive line, unleashing huge arrows. A streak of light sliced through the demonic beasts, blasting apart those struck. Suddenly, one of the demonic beasts avoided the layers of blockades to reach one of the arrow towers. Its sharp claw then slammed into the tower, almost bending it in half. Over 10 of the crossbows were destroyed in one blow. That demonic beast didn't have time to unleash another attack before a dozen rays of swordlight slew it. However, the destruction of that tower had created an opening within the defenses. The demonic beasts seemed to have sensed it and rushed that opening. 7 of the 18 arrow towers have been destroyed. If this continues, the second defensive line will be broken as well. Long Chen, we have to stop them. Shen Chengfeng was already charging into the battlefield. Brothers, stand steady. Reduce the defensive line and protect the arrow towers. With a single blow of his sword, Shen Chengfeng killed one of the powerful demonic beasts. The Heavenly Dragon warriors finally had a chance to breathe. A figure charged through the battlefield with black saber light flashing. With every flash of light, one of the sea demons fell. That's Long Chen. The Heavenly Dragon warriors were unable to believe their eyes. How was Long Chen here? Lightning flickered beneath Long Chen's feet as he passed through the battlefield, targeting the regions where the warriors seemed to be in the most danger. Every time Evil Moon flashed through the air, more demonic beasts fell. Either they exploded in a burst of blood, or they were badly mutilated. Long Chen has also come? Ha, now we're really fine. The Heavenly Dragon warriors laughed delightedly. Long Chen and Shen Chengfeng didn't cause an instant reversal of the battlefield. Instead, they supported everyone's defenses, protecting the arrow towers. Those arrow towers were treasures of the divine families, and they required a huge amount of manpower to build. They were the true killing weapons of the battlefield. However, their repair cost would have to come out of the pocket of the legion guarding them. Hence, the Heavenly Dragon Legion did their best to slay demonic beasts to accumulate merit points, and if they had to spend those few points on fixing the arrow towers, they would have to go hungry. With all the warriors protecting the arrow towers, a quick defensive formation quickly stabilized. Xie Feng, what happened here? Only now did Shen Chengfeng have a chance to call out toward a dark-faced man. Xie Feng was the vice commander of the 8th Legion. He hatefully said, "We were facing our enemies with no problem when suddenly a new batch came from the side, completely messing up our tempo. We didn't have time to set up any defenses." It was definitely the 3rd Legion. The sudden group of enemies came from their direction. Those bastards! Shen Chengfeng gnashed his teeth. The 3rd Legion had conned them here, wanting to make them lose even this second defensive line. We can talk about that later. Let's stabilize our defenses first. We can't allow any further arrow towers to be damaged, or we'll have to go hungry this month. Ordinary warriors, focus on defense. Squad leaders, come with me. We'll slaughter as many of these demonic beasts as possible to make up for our losses, ordered Shen Chengfeng. As long as they killed enough demonic beasts and took their nadens, they could exchange them for the merit points required to fix the arrow towers. Brother Long, do you have any ideas? Shen Chengfeng didn't forget to look for Long Chen's opinion. Long Chen shook his head. In this kind of chaotic battle, there's no need for such a thing. Just kill them. Long Chen didn't know much about demonic beasts, so he wanted to observe more. These demonic beasts weren't that powerful. Even the strongest was only on the level of a second-step nether passage expert. The most threatening thing about them was their numbers and their tough physical bodies. As for divine abilities or magical arts, they weren't powerful in that regard. Oh, those powerful fellows in the distance, why didn't they come over? Asked Long Chen suddenly while he was in the midst of killing the demonic beasts. He sensed several powerful auras just watching from the other side. They're afraid of our arrow towers. Those stronger demonic beasts would naturally be targeted first. If one of the towers concentrates hundreds of god-breaking arrows on one of them, then even a peak 12th rank demonic beast would be killed. Those arrow towers are our greatest protection. As long as we have them, they don't dare to come close, answered Shen Chengfeng. Alright, then I'll go take a look. Long Chen suddenly charged through the battlefield in the direction of those powerful auras. Long Chen, that's too dangerous, shouted Shen Qingfeng. That place was the land of the demonic beasts. But Long Chen was too fast, and he couldn't stop him. Shen Qingfeng immediately gave the order to point the arrow towers in that direction. Once Long Chen retreated to their range, they could assist him. Shen Qingfeng had a strange feeling of expectation. Having advanced to the Nether Passage realm, Long Chen should be able to retreat alive even in the face of a demon king. Long Chen passed through countless demonic beasts. He didn't bother getting tangled up with them. Shen Qingfeng said that the arrow towers have an effective range of 8,000 miles. Past that range, their power weakens. Long Chen began calculating things as he passed through the demonic beasts. The range of those arrow towers was half as far as Guerrant's crossbow attacks. However, they were focused on killing power in exchange for some range. There were some qualitative differences between the two. Outside the range of the arrow towers, Long Chen saw thousands of powerful demonic beasts with auras so terrifying that even he didn't dare to get close. Based on their auras, they were all peak 12th rank existences. Although their bloodlines weren't pure, their combat power was definitely above ordinary 4th step Nether Passage experts. Although Long Chen no longer cared about ordinary 4th step Nether Passage experts, these thousands of demonic beasts were so powerful that if he went over, he would be throwing his life away. These demonic beasts seemed to be from the same species. They had a pair of giant wings each and the heads of a bull. However, their arms were that of a human's and they were holding giant bone spears. Their eyeballs were bigger than a room. Even existences as powerful as them didn't dare to enter the effective range of the arrow towers. They were waiting for the arrows to be destroyed before attacking. However, since Long Chen and Shen Qingfeng had returned, that plan had been ruined. The demonic beasts that had charged in were no longer able to break the Heavenly Dragon Legion's defenses and destroy those arrow towers. "Commander Shen, what are these bull-headed monsters called?" shouted Long Chen. Shen Qingfeng shouted back, "They're from the demon race, the Dash, ignorant brat, you don't even know about our mighty Titan Blood Bull race?" Suddenly, one of those bull-headed monsters opened its mouth. "Oh, you can speak?" Long Chen stared in surprise. "Inferior human race, you're making too big of a fuss about nothing," sneered another one of them, an expression of disdain appearing on its bull face. "Damn, how demonic. So even a bull can grow a brain." Long Chen was amazed. "Wait, I've got an idea." Long Chen suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He shouted, "Ha, I remember now, doesn't your Titan Blood Bull race produce Bezoars?" The Bezoar of the Titan Blood Bull race was one of the main ingredients in certain 12th tier medicinal pills. Long Chen instantly thought of the Bezoar Blood Ignition Pill. That was one of the best pills for purifying essence blood. The Dragon Blood warriors were in the midst of absorbing the immemorial essence blood to stimulate their spirit blood. That on its own was great, but even then, the immemorial essence blood came from the blood race's essence blood. Even once it was purified and 99% of the impurities were extracted, there would still be the slightest bit left over with no way to remove it normally. Although everyone knew it would have an effect in the future, the benefits outweighed that. However, the Bezoar Blood Ignition Pill could resolve the problem. It could cause the blood to ignite and automatically remove impurities. That was what he needed most at this time. Yes, every part of the Titan Blood Bull race is a treasure. Their demonic Niden horns, blood, pizzle balls, they're all priceless treasures. "Actually, that Bezoar you mentioned is their balls," shouted Shen Qingfeng. The pizzle and balls were particularly valuable parts of the Titan Blood Bull race. They were treasures that powerful cultivators wished to obtain, but money couldn't buy them. "It's their balls? Don't try to scam me just because I don't read many books." Long Chen wanted to believe Shen Qingfeng, but he had never heard this before. "Bastard human race, you're courting death." The demonic beasts roared furiously. It seemed that mentioning how valuable their body parts were was taboo to them. So the Bezoar is located there. Well then, old bulls, listen well. I'm going to beat your balls out. Long Chen's divine ring suddenly appeared. As the heavenly dragon warriors cried out in shock, He shot toward those Titan Blood Bowl demons. Courting death. Those Titan Blood Bowl demons roared furiously. A few of them wanted to fight, but the one that seemed to be their leader shouted, "The human race is crafty. Don't get into the range of their arrow towers. If we stay here, he won't necessarily dare to come over." However, he had barely said this before Evil Moon stabbed into the sky. A giant saber image slashed toward them. Boom. Over 10 of them blocked together, resulting in them being blown back miserably. What power! Shen Chengfeng had been keeping an eye the entire time and was startled. Long Chen only had his divine ring out. His battle armor had yet to make an appearance. Despite that, he was able to force back over 10 of the Titan Blood Bowl demons, each of whom had extremely powerful physical bodies. Having fought with them for so many years, the Heavenly Dragon Warriors were well aware that competing with them in power was suicide. Seeing Long Chen really did dare to come into their territory, those demonic beasts roared. They actually surrounded him, trapping him in their midst. "Foolish little human, you won't be able to escape even if you grow wings. Don't even think about drawing us into the range of the arrow towers. Now that you've used yourself as bait, don't think about escaping alive." One of the demonic beasts was in the midst of laughing when he suddenly let out a shriek. Long Chen was holding a round leathery object bigger than a house. It looked similar to a giant coconut. Damn, what big balls! In that moment of carelessness, Long Chen had suddenly struck, cutting off that demon's balls. Only now that he was holding one did he realize just how powerful the essence blood inside it was. It was like raging lava. It was definitely the correct aura based on his pill sovereign memories. Now he finally believed that their Bezoar wasn't part of their digestive tract. The world really was full of marvels. The demon that Long Chen had struck fell from the sky and wailed on the ground, constantly rolling about and holding the wound. Cutting off their balls was apparently so painful that it made them lose their ability to fight. Blood Bowl Press. Suddenly, their leader gave an order that caused all of the Titan Blood Bowl demons to join forces. Their blood chi erupted, forming a giant sphere compressing on Long Chen. Long Chen's hair suddenly stood on end. The pressure was causing space to crumble and collapse. This unified attack contained all their power and was definitely enough to crush him. He immediately formed hand seals, and golden light appeared behind him. 72 sharp golden dragon teeth appeared, shooting out at 72 different targets. Ever since obtaining the golden dragon teeth, he had rarely used them. Although they were incredibly sharp, they were easily damaged against powerful divine items. Once broken, they would lose their sharp nature. Without that, they were essentially useless. Long Chen hadn't used them in combat because it would be too painful to his heart to have them broken. But against these enemies with no divine items to protect them, he could finally use the teeth. The dragon teeth instantly pierced their defenses, and their aim was naturally their balls. They were instantly pierced. To increase the teeth's sharpness, Long Chen made them shrink to a foot in length. In that state, they could easily pierce the bull demon's tough hides, especially around their balls. Miserable shrieks rang out as 72 bull demons fell to the ground. The sphere compressing him instantly fell out of balance. The others quickly stabilized it, causing the space inside to once more crumble. However, Long Chen had already flown out of the opening. He shot through their midst. Of course, he wouldn't go for free. Evil Moon smoothly swept out, cutting off a dozen balls. Those powerful demonic beasts fell to the ground, wailing. Their leader was infuriated. "Reduce your sizes." Their huge bodies allowed them to unleash their greatest power, but now it was a disadvantageous thing. It was like a group of giants trying to swat a fly. Furthermore, Long Chen had found a way to break their combination technique, and without being able to catch him off guard again, they had to switch tactics. Thousands of bull demons quickly shrank down until they were only 3 meters tall. Holding bone spears, they shot at Long Chen. Battle armor. Stars appeared in Long Chen's eyes, and Evil Moon danced through the air. The closest bull demon was killed with one slash. A head soared into the air before being blown apart by a kick from Long Chen. This was the first one he killed. Previously, he had only cut off their balls, making them temporarily lose the ability to fight. The strange thing was that after a certain amount of time, their balls would regrow. Their life force was quite amazing. However, a head wouldn't regrow after it was blown apart. The first death of their comrades made these bull demons go berserk. Die! Their leader roared and charged past its subordinates, striking Long Chen on its own. Long Chen blocked its spear with Evil Moon. He felt his blood flip inside of him and was knocked back. As Long Chen fell back, a dozen bone spears pierced toward him. He dodged repeatedly, but one pierced his shoulder blade, causing sharp pain to suddenly rack his upper body. Long Chen swung his blade, cutting the one who had struck him in half. Blood burst out of his shoulder. That blood seemed to stimulate the bull demons, and they charged over. Long Chen roared and began to fight with his life on the line, but he was quickly submerged by their numbers. "Commander, they've entered our shooting range. Long Chen needs our help." One of the vice commanders sent a message to Shen Chengfeng. In their rage, the bull demons had ended up being drawn closer to the battlefield without even realizing it. They had just entered the edge of their range. Not yet. Shen Chengfeng shook his head, continuing to keep an eye as he fought. "Long Chen is in crisis. We can't wait," cried the vice commander. "What do you know?" "Shut up." Shen Chengfeng roared back. Long Chen had yet to even summon his white dragon scales. Hence, it was clear that he hadn't used his full power, and his vice commander couldn't even see that. In the distance, Long Chen tried to charge through the blockade of the bull demons multiple times, but was unable to get past them. Long Chen was covered in blood. During this time, he had managed to kill a dozen of them. What a monster! Shen Chengfeng couldn't help feeling amazed. Long Chen not only had the power to kill a few of the bull demons while surrounded by thousands of them, but he was clearly constantly antagonizing them to make them lose their minds even more. "Commander, they've fully entered our attack range. This is the best chance," said the vice commander who had just been scolded. He couldn't help it. Shen Chengfeng shook his head. The time is not fully ripe yet. Long Chen is allowing himself to be injured to draw them over. That's definitely not just to kill a few of them. He's putting in this much effort to get them all. If we attack now, one wave of attacks will only kill a third of them, and they'll be gone by the second wave. Just keep an eye. When Long Chen gives the signal or the bull demons realize something is off, unleash the arrows. Kill them all? The vice commander was startled. Heavens, if that works, wouldn't we have profited even counting the loss of the arrow towers? Stay calm. Long Chen always likes to play big. Hee, that's why I'm the happiest of all that he's come here. Damn, he's really starting to go big. Shen Chengfeng suddenly saw Long Chen summon a domain of flames. The golden flames filled the battlefield. It looked like he couldn't hold on much longer. The bull demons had gone berserk. He had repeatedly killed their comrades, but every time they were about to kill him, he would manage to slip away by just the slightest bit, driving them crazy. The flames set them on fire but didn't scare them. Instead, it made them think that Long Chen was on his last legs. They were unaware that the flames were blocking their vision and sense of direction. They were getting closer to the center of the battlefield. The flames also drowned out sounds. Some of the demonic beasts tried to warn them, but they were unable to hear them. Shen Chengfeng, it's your turn. I don't want anything but the balls. Long Chen suddenly shouted. Thunder rumbled, and Long Chen suddenly shot into the sky, leaving the battlefield. Fire! Shen Chengfeng gave the order immediately. Rays of divine light shot out of the arrow towers, shooting through the Titan blood bull demons. The flames vanished and were replaced by a blinding clap of lightning. The Titan blood bull demons were not only blinded, but their bodies were temporarily paralyzed, not listening to their orders. They were unable to see anything, but they did hear a whistling sound that made their hair stand on end. They realized something. Run! A god-destroying arrow pierced through that demon's head, instantly silencing him. Countless arrows flew out of the towers, cutting through the demonic beasts. Those Titan blood bull demons once more summoned their true bodies and tried to flee. Even though they had wings, flying wasn't their specialty. It was faster for them to run. But as they tried to flee, Lightning suddenly paralyzed them. Some of them stumbled and tripped others. With their huge bodies, as long as they weren't shot in their head or balls, they should be fine. With their butts facing the arrows and their arms covering their heads, they fled. However, after 3 waves of arrows, only a few dozen of them managed to escape with their lives. Seeing that, Long Chen shook his head. If Guo Ran saw this, he would definitely curse the archers who had missed so many shots. Just as Shun Chengfeng was preparing to give the order for the 4th wave, space shuddered. Arrows rained down from a different direction. Those fish that had escaped were slaughtered. Shen Chengfeng's expression changed. He shouted, "Yi Lingfeng, what do you think you're doing?" At this moment, there was no need to defend the arrow towers any longer. The heavenly dragon warriors had all charged out as all the ordinary demonic beasts fled along with the Titan blood bull demons. However, it was at this moment that a group of flying magical beasts appeared in the sky. They were bound by thick chains, and they were pulling giant war chariots. Those war chariots had dozens of golden crossbows set up along them, with hundreds of other heavenly dragon warriors on them. Long Chen instantly recognized the 2 vice commanders that had previously taunted him and Shen Chengfeng. However, now, those 2 were standing behind a tall and muscular man. Shen Chengfeng's gaze was locked onto that person. Even without looking at the mark on his chest, Long Chen knew that he was definitely the commander of the 3rd Heavenly Dragon Legion. Yi Lingfeng smiled at Shen Chengfeng's gloomy expression. "Commander Shen, what are you talking about? My 3rd Legion came rushing over from a great distance to reinforce you, but instead of thanking us, you act so hostile? It truly makes a person's heart cold." Shen Chengfeng directly burst into curses. "Yi Lingfeng, don't give me that crap. I'm already well aware of what kind of garbage person you are. You think others don't know your sinister plots. Last time, it was your fault that we lost our territory, and this time you intentionally created an opening to allow the Titan Blood Bull race to come here, almost causing us to lose more ground. Now you even dare to come here and try to take advantage of our work? You shameless trash, you're the disgrace of the Heavenly Dragon Legion. Ha, you're getting so angry over something so small? You really aren't fit to be a commander. No wonder you've always remained the bottom-ranking existence and never managed to climb up. Shen Chengfeng, you're too unskilled. Go back and cultivate for a few more years. However, based on my vision, you'll only be able to remain at this level for the rest of your lifetime," said Yi Lingfeng without the slightest anger at Shen Chengfeng's insults. The enmity between the 2 of them was not a matter of 1 or 2 days. He waved his hand to his people. "Go take back the prey that we killed. These are our spoils of battle. Do you want to try touching them?" The 8th Legion's warriors immediately charged forward, raging. All the arrow towers locked onto Yi Lingfeng and the others. These spoils were earned with their blood and their comrades' lives. In the face of those arrow towers, Yi Lingfeng sneered, "The corpses that have the arrows of my 3rd Legion belong to us. Those are the rules. If you want to try it, then try it. Let me see if you dare to actually fire at me." A few of the 3rd Legion's warriors began to pick up the corpses right in front of the 8th Legion's warriors. Although they didn't touch the ones that had only been slain by the 8th Legion, the 8th Legion's warriors were all enraged. They clenched their teeth furiously but didn't actually attack. Those were the rules of the divine families. Whoever killed the prey was who the prey would belong to. "Hey, this prey is mine. You're going to take them?" Long Chen had been watching this going on, and he finally spoke up. "Yours? Do they have your name written on them?" sneered Yi Lingfeng. "Oh, you mean without my name on them, they aren't mine?" sneered back Long Chen. "You must be Long Chen. The rumors say that you're quite tough, but now I wonder if your head is broken to argue with me over such a meaningless question," said Yi Lingfeng disdainfully. "Oh no, this question is quite meaningful. But since you've answered me, it's fine. I should just warn you, my things aren't so easy to take," advised Long Chen kindly. "Ha, who do you think you are? Little fellow, I'd take care not to get yourself killed without even realizing it." Yi Lingfeng laughed and waved his hand, bringing his people away. As the magical beasts roared and dragged the chariots away, Yi Lingfeng's mocking voice rang out once more. "Does he really think he's someone important? What a joke!" The laughter of other people followed. "That bastard, I really want to kill him." Shen Chengfeng smashed a nearby stone, blowing it to smithereens. If he didn't vent, he felt like he might explode. The other warriors of the 8th Legion were ashen. Their joy at their prophet had vanished, and they were now filled with rage with no way to release it. They had clearly been plotted against and had taken heavy losses. In the end, those people had even plucked some profits from them before leaving. How could they accept this? "All right, don't just stare. Hurry and clean up the battlefield. Remember to leave the Bezoars to Brother Long," ordered Shen Chengfeng. This had been a crushing victory for them, with thousands of the Titan Blood Bull race's corpses to go through, so having lost a few dozen was nothing. It was just the feeling that was vile. It was like they were happily eating a delicacy only to find a bug in the final bite. Shen Chengfeng could barely contain his rage. He knew that Yi Lingfeng had schemed against them. If things had gone as Yi Lingfeng had planned, then the 8th Legion might have been routed and forced to retreat even further. Long Chen's arrival had been something he hadn't expected, so he hadn't managed to get everything that he had wanted. But even though he hadn't managed to swoop in and take all the profit in the end, he had still managed to piss off the 8th Legion. Shen Chengfeng suppressed his fury and walked over to Long Chen. "Brother Long, I'm sorry for this. How about we give you half of everything in addition to the Bezoars?" Every part of the Titan Blood Bull race was important. The pizzle in particular was a great supplement for men, one capable of increasing their fertility. The higher the cultivation base, the lower the fertility of a cultivator. This was a suppression of the heavenly Daos. The stronger they were, the stronger their descendants were. This was also why it was very difficult for two peerless experts to have children. Many of them would be unable to bear a child their entire lives. However, if they did have one, there would be a high chance of that child inheriting their father and mother's strongest bloodlines, giving the child a huge head start on everyone else when it came to cultivation. The pizzle was quite popular amongst those who had reached the life-star realm and beyond. However, it was a rare treasure that couldn't be bought with money. Even if they split half of everything with Long Chen, that would still be enough to make up for the 8th Legion's losses today. Also, Shen Chengfeng was quite bold to offer Long Chen that much. Most people wouldn't have been capable of it. "I don't want anything else other than the Bezoars. I wouldn't have been able to kill so many of them on my own, so everyone contributed. To take all those Bezoars for myself is already very shameless of me," said Long Chen. "Brother Long, if it weren't for you dash." Long Chen shook his head. "Let's not argue. After cleaning up the battlefield, I have something I want to say to everyone. Do you want revenge? You have a way?" Shen Chengfeng's eyes lit up. "How refreshing. Did you think I didn't have a way to handle this?" Long Chen smiled wickedly. Yi Lingfeng wished to play? He would play. After cleaning up the battlefield and hearing that Long Chen only wanted the Bezoars, refusing the other spoils, the Heavenly Dragon warriors felt even greater reverence for him. He was truly worthy of being the boss of the Dragonblood Legion. He had refused all those treasures. Even if he himself didn't have a use for them, he could exchange them for merit points and buy other treasures. Long Chen came from poor origins but was actually willing to leave this wealth to them. That was very admirable of him. Hence, they all gathered up to listen intently to his vengeance plan. Long Chen said, "Look at yourselves. Are you even cultivators? Did you cultivate to resign yourselves to fate? To be other people's stepping stones? To be humiliated by others? If that's the case, you can just stop cultivating and achieve the same result. To put it frankly, this is a result of you being pushovers. If it was the Dragonblood Legion, do you think that what was his name again?" "Yi Lingfeng," complimented Shen Chengfeng. "Yes, that Yi Lingfeng. If he dared to act this way in front of my Dragonblood Legion, we'd have taken his balls instead. I would write my name backward if even one person from his group could leave alive after taking the Dragonblood Legion spoils. But look at yourselves. Does gnashing your teeth count as revenge? To tell the truth, if we didn't have a little bit of a relationship, seeing you like this would make me leave." "I don't like cowards," said Long Chen. Shen Chengfeng's expression was ugly. He sighed. "It's my fault. I am the weakest of the 8 commanders. We wouldn't be forced to act like this if it weren't for me. This has nothing to do with your power. If I wasn't present in the Dragonblood Legion, they still wouldn't accept this. You're still enduring and making concessions after people bully you like this? Let me tell you what the law of the cultivation world is. For every step back you take, others will take another step forward until you have nowhere to go. At that time, you will find that due to taking so many steps backward, you no longer have any chance to counterattack. In the end, you won't be able to do anything but despair. So tell me, do you want revenge? Do you want to strike back? Do you want to take back the dignity that you lost? Demanded Long Chen. Of course, but we can't beat the Third Legion. The difference in power is too great. Xin Qingfeng bitterly smiled. The rankings of the legions were based not only on the power of the commanders but also on the actual legions. In the last competition for the rankings, Xin Qingfeng had lost narrowly to Yi Bencheng. After that, he had worked hard and had surpassed his level. However, just that wasn't enough. He also needed to raise everyone's collective power. That didn't just refer to each warrior's power, but also the weapons, armor, steeds, house pets, and other things that the Legion possessed. Due to the 8th Legion being the weakest, they also won the least spoils on the battlefield. They were unable to accumulate many merit points, which were the important wealth of the Legion. As a result, they grew weaker and weaker, with their courage shrinking along with them. They could only kill a few of the weaker demonic beast races. The cycle had continued to this point. The strong grew stronger, while the weak grew weaker. It was now very difficult to reverse this situation. They used to have over 20 arrow towers, but some had been damaged last time and had yet to be repaired before more were damaged. If they hadn't killed so many of the Titan Blood Bull demons this time, the next few months would have been difficult for them to get through. As for the Third Legion, they had 180 arrow towers and 3 mobile chariots, with almost every member possessing a powerful magical beast steed. Their equipment was top-notch individually as well. The 8th Legion was like beggars trying to get by in comparison to the 3rd Legion. That was why Xin Qingfeng couldn't help sighing. The power difference was too immense. Other than humiliating themselves, nothing would be gained from going against the 3rd Legion. Of the 8 legions, the only one that they could compete with in terms of combat resources was the 7th Legion. But the 7th and 6th Legions had been sent to stand guard over the Yin-Yang world. The 7th Legion's territory had been temporarily handed to the 3rd Legion to watch over. Although the 3rd Legion had only sent a small portion of their warriors over to this side, it was still too much pressure for the 8th Legion. This was a very important time for the 8th Legion. Right now, everyone was rotating through guarding the Yin-Yang world. That didn't bring them any real benefits. Last time, they had basically made nothing from guarding it. The time to gather points was crucial, but the 3rd Legion was intentionally making things hard on them. Who said that you have to fight against them directly? Furthermore, the divine families would not permit such a thing. I simply wish to know if you have the determination to truly go against them. Battle is like a gamble. You've lost your underpants, so your only gambling chip is your life. I'm asking if you dare to gamble. If you do, then I have a plan. If you don't, then there's no need for me to stay here, said Long Chen. I don't quite understand, said Xin Qingfeng. He didn't know what Long Chen was planning. Long Chen waved his hand. I just want to know your attitude. Do you have that determination? If things work, you'll end up getting a big fish and the 8th Legion will no longer need to bear other people's insults. If you fail though, the 8th Legion will be so badly damaged that it won't ever recover again. I'm asking if you're willing to gamble. For a moment, everyone was silent. Suddenly, one warrior shouted, Commander, let's gamble. We cannot continue suffering like this. Everyone's morale has plummeted. We've lost everything we could lose, so what's the worst case if we lose again? Are people with nothing afraid of losing? Yes, they've pushed us too far. Our cultivation is being slowed down by them. How are we supposed to survive on the battlefield like this? Let's gamble now, or there won't be a chance in the future. I believe that senior apprentice brother Long Chen will definitely lead us to a big victory, said another warrior. Long Chen shook his head. No. When gambling, there will definitely be losses along with the wins. There are no sure bets, or it wouldn't be gambling. Whether you wish to gamble or not is up to you. Think it over well. Let's gamble. Commander, we already don't have anything to lose. If we don't strike back now, we won't even be qualified to fight the 7th Legion. Exactly. Being ground down like this is miserable. It's better to gamble. The Heavenly Dragon warriors didn't know what Long Chen was planning, but they knew it would be something big. Their target was the 3rd Legion, the 3rd Legion which had bullied them intolerably these days. The flames of rage were still strong in their hearts. Some of them were even willing to not get anything as long as it meant that the 3rd Legion paid a price. They had had enough of the 3rd Legion's arrogance and taunting. After being forced into such desperate straits, even a rabbit would bite, let alone a human. Seeing that everyone supported this, Shen Chengfeng nodded. All right, then we'll entrust our fates to you. We'll do what you say. Shen Chengfeng knew what kind of person Long Chen was. He was someone who did not fear anything within heaven and earth. No one knew what he would do. Moreover, Shen Chengfeng had also grown sick of this. In the worst case, they would be expelled from the divine families. Since everyone had made their choice as commander, he couldn't be cowardly. All right, then let's reorganize ourselves. Tally up the results of this battle. Long Chen didn't treat them as outsiders, instead directly giving orders. He called over Shen Chengfeng to a place where they could speak alone. He smiled at him. Don't look like you're going onto the executioner's platform. I'm not going to get you all killed. Long Chen saw that Shen Chengfeng was worried he would do something that would implicate the entire 8th Legion and get them punished. That wasn't what he was planning. Shen Chengfeng was embarrassed at being read so easily and having such thoughts. Get me a map of this place with various strongholds, defensive lines, and powerful forces labeled. I also need to see what kind of trump cards you have accumulated and what kind of things your merit points can be traded for, said Long Chen. Shen Chengfeng began to explain in detail how the 8 defensive lines were spread throughout the ancient battlefield, as well as the general camps of the demon race. At this time, Long Chen realized that the ancient battlefield had many natural strongholds. The Heavenly Dragon Legion relied on those strongholds for their defensive lines. All right, I have a general understanding. Let me see what kind of cards you have right now. This is very important, said Long Chen solemnly. This was the crux of the problem. This time, Long Chen wasn't planning on using his own power. This was the trial that the deputy elder had given him. Right now, we have 11 arrow towers left. Those are our strongest trump cards. The battle damaged 7 arrow towers and 437 warriors died. If we hadn't arrived in time, the 8th Legion would have taken even worse losses. Shen Chengfeng. The arrow towers could be fixed. It just required some points. But when people died, they wouldn't come back. The divine families would send new blood to maintain the original 10,000 spots. But those newcomers weren't true warriors. They needed to be slowly tempered to reach the same tempo as the others. The biggest headache for Shen Chengfeng was that some of the strong newcomers would rather wait until they had a chance to join the other legions instead of the 8th Legion. They all felt that there was no room for advancement within the 8th Legion. Those talented people were waiting for deaths amongst the other legions to fight over those spots. As a result, the people that the 8th Legion managed to get were all rather ordinary. Shen Chengfeng no longer knew how to reverse this cycle. He could only watch as his legion grew weaker and weaker, and the only thing they could do was bitterly endure. He had tried countless times to change this, but after meeting setback after setback, failure after failure, his will had silently been ground down. 11 arrow towers. All right, then what about the gains from this battle? They can be exchanged for useful things, right? Asked Long Chen. Yes. Other than financial support for the families of the dead warriors, there's enough to repair the broken arrow towers and buy 5 new ones. What about other than the arrow towers? There's a lot. Take a look at the list. Shen Chengfeng handed a jade tablet to Long Chen. It lit up, and a mass of characters appeared in the air. It was a catalog containing dazzling treasures. There were armor, weapons, tools of battle, magical beast steeds, house pet eggs, formation materials, pills, medicinal ingredients, etc. When Long Chen saw those medicinal ingredients, his heartbeat quickened. The divine families must have large stores of medicinal ingredients. They had to have 12th tier ones and maybe even higher ones. However, he didn't look at the medicinal ingredients right now. He looked at the formations. After reaching the end, he finally saw an existence amongst the illusion formations called the mirror image formation. Buy some of these, said Long Chen. Mirror image formations? They're soul-bewildering formations. What would we use them for? Asked Xinqing Feng. They rarely used formations on the battlefield because the cost was so great that any profit was lost. Buy 300 of them. I have a use for them. 300? Each one is 1,000 points. 300,000 points is half of our gains from this battle, said Xinqing Feng with alarm. They're so expensive. Long Chen was surprised. In the Dragonblood Legion, Xia Chen was the one who made their formation discs, and he seemed to have an endless number of them. Long Chen hadn't been aware that they were so precious. Carving formation discs was extremely complicated, with a high chance of failure. That was why each formation disc was very precious. Even if they're expensive, we have to buy them. Sonic light bombs, I want 10 of them, and I suppose 8,000 explosive arrowheads. Long Chen began to list things. The things he wanted turned Shen Chengfeng's face green. Long Chen, the 8th Legion, doesn't have so many points. It's all right. Go talk to your brothers and have them contribute the points they have. After this operation, return it to them double, said Long Chen. That's too far. Every warrior was given 10 points by the divine families every month. Those points were basically their life. Those points were what they used to buy items that they needed for cultivation. Those 10 points weren't even enough. The other legions gave rewards to their warriors from their successful battles. But in the past few months, the 8th Legion hadn't gained any points to distribute, and now Xinqing Feng was to demand others give up their points instead? Are you too embarrassed to do it? All right, I'll do it. Long Chen stood. No, I'll do it. Xinqing Feng shook his head. Even if it was embarrassing, he had to do it himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't be qualified to be their commander. An hour later, Xinqing Feng returned. Seeing his slightly red eyes, Long Chen smiled. How was it? Were you surprised? Xinqing Feng nodded, his voice emotional. It really was surprising. I didn't think that they would support me so much. I suddenly feel like I've failed to live up to their expectations. When he had gone about asking for points, they had given him everything they had. Those sincere faces had almost made him cry. With no one else watching, Xinqing Feng really did cry now. This was partly from emotion but also shame. I'm not a good commander, but every one of them is a good warrior, said Xinqing Feng. Long Chen patted his shoulder. The reason they are willing to risk this with you is because of your charisma. Being negative to yourself is being negative to them. Sorry. I've made you laugh at me. No. Who said men can't cry? I don't know how many times I've cried myself. It's those damn fellows that are too damn moving. You and I are the same. Their futures are on our shoulders. Why else would I risk my life? Not because I'm a fool, but because there's no other choice, right? I'm so much older than you, but I feel so young in front of you. Well, I won't say too much about that. This life of mine is yours for now. We just barely managed to buy everything that you listed. Now what? Asked Xinqing Feng. Now, all you have to do is listen to me. Long Chen's wicked laughter rang out once more. 3 days passed silently. On this day, Long Chen and Xinqing Feng snuck to the front of the battlefield. Within a giant boulder, Long Chen looked out from a crack to examine the ruins before him. This is where you set up your defensive line before? Asked Long Chen. The boulder they were in was a special tool designed to conceal their auras and prevent others from noticing them. The 8th Legion only had this one, and it was only capable of holding a few people. Yes. All the defenses we set up here have been destroyed, said Xinqing Feng. Long Chen continued examining things and then suddenly chortled. Truly not bad. Other than the Titan Blood Bull race, there's also the Long-Armed Demon Ape and Wind-Stepping Demon races. With so many demonic beasts here, there's no way for us to take back this territory, said Xinqing Feng. It would be a crazy man's dream to win back this territory with just the 8th Legion's power. If my Dragonblood Legion came, I would directly charge through them. But this time, I have to use my head to resolve this problem. To tell the truth, I rarely bother with such a thing. Long Chen curled his lips. Continuing to examine things, he asked, "Are things prepared on that side?" "Everything was set up 6 hours ago. I made them check things one last time just now to confirm that nothing was off. Now they're just waiting," said Xin Qingfeng. Long Chen nodded. Being a bit cautious was best. In truth, he was sure that the Heavenly Dragon warriors wouldn't leave any holes. This related to their lives and fates. Very quickly, Xin Qingfeng received word that they had gone over everything again and found nothing off. "Now what?" asked Xin Qingfeng. Even now, he didn't know Long Chen's plan. "Now it's simple." Long Chen smiled sinisterly. The boulder they were in slowly retreated. The camp of the 3rd Heavenly Dragon Legion was located between a giant spatial crack and a bottomless hole. Between these two natural strongholds were 30,000 warriors. They all belonged to the 3rd Legion. Their armor was bright, and their weapons were of the highest quality. Outside their camp were hundreds of giant magical beasts patrolling, keeping a vigilant eye on the demonic beasts. If any of them approached, these magical beasts would immediately sense them and sound the alarm. With the magical beasts patrolling, the other warriors didn't need to. Things looked very lax. "Report." Suddenly, a person came flying over to the center of the camp. Yiling Feng was standing in the war chariot and asked him, "What is it?" Reporting to the commander, the 8th Legion has surrounded a group of elites of the demonic beasts at the Ghost King pit to the front right. It seems that they'll fully exterminate them in less than an incense stick's time. "Oh, it seems that Long Chen has some ability. Let's go take a look and see if he can piss them off some more." Yiling Feng's eyes brightened. He immediately led a portion of his people away. Retreat. The 8th Legion's warriors were about to slaughter all the demonic beasts that they were surrounding until someone shouted. Without hesitation, everyone flew away. Their bodies suddenly vanished mysteriously as if space had enveloped them. Those warriors had entered an illusion formation that had been activated from near a spatial crack. Without getting close, there was no way to tell. At this moment, a war chariot came racing over. Yiling Feng was standing atop it, only to see a mass of corpses from the demonic beasts. There were still some straggling demonic beasts fleeing. "HM? Curious, where are they? They retreated without even cleaning up the battlefield?" The person who had reported this in the first place couldn't understand it. "Something seems off," said one of the vice commanders. But he was unable to say what was off. The 8th Legion was famous for their poverty. When they cleaned up the battlefield, they wouldn't leave a single thing. But now they had run off without even picking up a corpse? Boom. Suddenly, space exploded. Runes filled the air, causing them all to jump. Upon seeing those runes, Yiling Feng's gaze turned cold. Mirror image runes. Yiling Feng instantly recognized them. No wonder he had felt it was odd. What they had been seeing was just a mirror image. Those runes exploded and roaring filled the air. A mass of Titan blood bull demons came charging over. They had been here the whole time, and upon seeing a lone chariot rushing over, they had first been dumbfounded. But then seeing it was all alone, they didn't overthink it and attacked. "How stupid! They spent this much money just to give us some food?" Yiling Feng sneered. A group of Titan blood bull demons was nothing to him. However, he had yet to finish talking when another mirror image formation appeared behind them, splintering apart to reveal a group of black four-legged lizards. Those lizards spat out black mist that surged toward them. "Activate the chariot's defenses to block the poison mist," ordered Yiling Feng. The most terrifying aspect of those lizards was their poison. Even armor could be corroded by it. It wasn't the actual armor itself, but the runes that gave it its power that would be corroded. Suddenly, strange sounds came from the distance. Someone cried, "Arrow bone rats." Giant rats with bone spurs coming out of their backs were rushing over. Those bone spurs were just as sharp as arrows. As soon as they appeared, those bone spurs came shooting over. They exploded on contact with the chariot, And although the chariot was not damaged, it was shaking intensely. The magical beasts carrying it were wiped out. Yi Lingfeng was infuriated. Everyone other than him was forced to hide within the chariot. The chariot's runes lit up, unleashing runic swords that killed the closest Titan Blood Bowl demons. The unfortunate thing was that the lizard's poison mist was extremely effective against human flesh and armor, but other demonic beasts didn't seem to mind. The most terrifying opponents for them were the arrow bone rats. Their bone arrows were almost equivalent to the attack of the arrow towers. Through a formation disc, Long Chen watched everything going on. He couldn't help smacking his lips. Those arrow bone rats are so powerful. Beside him, Shen Chengfeng said, "Of course. They're very terrifying existences that we have never dared to get close to. When we see them, we immediately retreat to focus on defense. They're the only ones that can wipe us out instantly if we're not careful. Fortunately, their range isn't that great. That's why it was possible to lure them over here. Long Chen, I'm pretty amazed you managed to calculate everything so perfectly." To lure the demonic beasts over so accurately, Long Chen had used multiple mirror image formations, making them come here without even noticing it. These are just some meaningless tricks. I don't like using them because they're so childish, but sometimes they can be fun to play around with. Hiding here while watching the fish get lured in bit by bit, hee, it really feels quite good, laughed Long Chen. It had been a while since he had played some schemes. Hiding while conning others. If the old man were to learn of this, he would definitely curse him to death. But Long Chen did feel quite successful inside. Yi Lingfeng's group was being thrown about within the carriage from the attacks of the arrow bone rats. "Bastard, do you think this is enough to make things hard on me? You're too immature." Yi Lingfeng roared and slammed the core of the chariot's formation. He was going to unleash the full power of the chariot. However, just at that moment, a jade plate on his waist began to rapidly blink, causing his expression to change. "Our defensive line has been attacked." The chariot tumbled away, wretchedly managing to get away from the attacks of the demonic beasts. However, those demonic beasts followed. Their intelligence wasn't very high, and seeing one lonely war chariot, they felt that this was a chance they might not get again. The chariot sped through the air, with 3 groups of demonic beasts in hot pursuit. As the chariot fled, more groups of demonic beasts appeared in their way, and when they saw the chariot, they immediately attacked. "Bastards, they definitely did something here," raged Yi Lingfeng. Their retreat path had also been set up. He didn't even know where these demonic beasts were coming from. More and more of them were appearing, causing him to panic. If their defensive line was lost, taking it back would be very difficult. "Long Chen, you little bastard, just wait. Once I settle things here, don't even think about leaving the ancient battlefield alive." With his understanding of Shen Chengfeng, Yi Lingfeng was sure that he couldn't come up with such a scheme. One reason was because Shen Chengfeng didn't have the head for it, while the other was because he didn't have the guts. This was definitely Long Chen's idea. More and more demonic beasts appeared, but fortunately they had the war chariot. If they hadn't, they would have been doomed. Yi Lingfeng didn't dare to tarry. If they were trapped in a battle against these demonic beasts, once the chariot's energy was all used up, it would become a scrap of useless metal. Perhaps he himself would be able to escape with his power, but everyone else would die. Countless runic swords were shooting out of the chariots, forcibly carving a bloody path through the demonic beasts. They didn't even have time to pick up the corpses. It was like Yi Lingfeng had angered a hornet's nest, except it wasn't hornets but millions of demonic beasts. From a distance, Long Chen saw a line of dust appear in the sky as Yi Lingfeng fled. He sighed. Shen Chengfeng also sighed. This was a sigh that represented the slightest relief from years of resentment. The heavenly dragon warriors were starting to clean up the battlefield. One of them excitedly said, "The 3rd Legion's flying dragon war chariots are really powerful. If we had one as well, wouldn't we be able to reclaim our lost territory? If we had such a thing, we would never have lost our territory. Don't dream. Such a treasure couldn't be bought even if we saved all our points for 3 years. Be more realistic and clean up the battlefield. It seems that we'll not only get back our investment but also make some profit." All the heavenly dragon warriors felt great satisfaction looking at Yi Lingfeng's wretched sight. Not only that, but they were also picking up the corpses of powerful demonic beasts that could be exchanged for enough points to make up for what they had spent. Long Chen, that's about enough. If we get any closer to the 7th Legion's camp, the formation will sense us, said Shin Chengfeng. Right now, they were still on the edge of the region that the 7th Legion's camp could sense. The divine families had rules, and taking corpses that they hadn't killed would be considered stealing. Of course, if no one saw, then rules became powerless. It would be troublesome though if they were noticed. Based on our current profit, we haven't lost out at all. We even profited a bit. We can leave now, said Shin Chengfeng. Leave now? Do you think that when I go out, I'm satisfied with so little? It seems you really have gotten used to your poor days. Long Chen looked at Shin Chengfeng with surprise. Brother Long, what did you plan to do? Long Chen was speechless. How refreshing. This is just the start, and the good show has yet to begin. How could we stop now? We still haven't used quite a few of the things that we bought. Then what's next? Next, we can just watch the fun. At this time, Yi Lingfeng should have returned to his camp. Yi Lingfeng truly had returned. However, when he did, he saw that there were no demonic beasts attacking. Everything was still calm. The warriors stationed there stared at him in shock. Behind him was an army of demonic beasts charging over. Yi Lingfeng's expression changed. He knew he had been scammed again. Activate all the defenses. The arrow towers, war chariots, divine crossbows, and the dragon cannons must be unleashed, roared Yi Lingfeng. The 3rd Legion's warriors that were within the camp were all shocked. Just what had happened? Why had their commander drawn over so many demonic beasts? There was no need for Yi Lingfeng to give orders. They instantly entered their combat state. Arrows shot out of the camp, and the sound of cannons resounded through the air. Giant corpses piled up as the demonic beasts at the front were slain. However, no one smiled. There's too many demonic beasts. We can't stop them. Even after using all their weapons, they were unable to stop the advance of the demonic beasts. They were too fast, and even if the ones at the front were slain, their corpses protected the ones behind them from most of the attacks. The worst thing to occur in a battle against demonic beasts was to encounter such a wave. Once the demonic beasts began congregating for such an assault, they needed to be interrupted. However, today things had come too suddenly. These demonic beasts attacked from right behind Yi Lingfeng. The exploding formations set up underground that were normally used to stop the charges of demonic beasts would blow up Yi Lingfeng if activated. That moment of hesitation allowed the demonic beasts to close the gap. As soon as Yi Lingfeng's chariot entered the camp, he shouted, "Detonate all the lightning partitions." Explosions shook the land. Lightning mixed with flames blasted apart the demonic beasts. After just over 10 explosions, things fell silent again. Yi Lingfeng's expression darkened. "What are you hesitating for? Detonate them all." "Commander, this is the camp of the 7th Legion, not ours. There were only 16 lightning partitions. In the 3rd Legion's camp, there were over 300 of those bombs laid underground. If they were there, then these demonic beasts would have been wiped out instantly." Unfortunately, Yi Lingfeng had forgotten that this wasn't his camp. They had only come as a temporary garrison for this spot. "Stop wasting words and focus on defense. We cannot allow them to enter." Yi Lingfeng was so enraged that his face alternated between black and green. He personally stepped forward, summoning his manifestation and taking the vanguard position. It went without saying that Yi Lingfeng was extremely powerful. His armor enveloped him in light, and his sword danced through the air, killing a powerful demonic beast with each slash. Although Long Chen disliked this fellow, he had no choice but to admit that he was powerful. Yi Lingfeng led his warriors into battle with the arrow towers, war chariots, divine crossbows, and dragon cannons all shooting from the rear. The demonic beasts were being slaughtered in waves. Seeing how powerful the 3rd Legion was, Shin Chengfeng sighed. "They really are far stronger than us." If it was the 8th Legion facing this assault, running would be their only option. Rather than saying that they're strong, it's more accurate to say that they're wealthy. They are essentially created from money, but they also have a fatal flaw, said Long Chen. What fatal flaw? Shen Chengfeng hastily asked. They're too prideful. They think a powerful costume makes them unbeatable. From their movements, you can see that they're not accustomed to this kind of battle. In other words, in the past, they always crush their opponents directly. To put it frankly, they're a group of adults who have only beaten children. They have no idea how to work together in combat. Although their attacks look sharp, they're just randomly shooting. They have no control over the tempo of the battle. I guarantee that in less than an incense stick's worth of time, holes will appear in their defense, said Long Chen confidently. Really? It looks to me that they're definitely going to win. After all, their equipment is so strong, said Shen Chengfeng. Long Chen smiled and pointed at a formation disc. When Shen Chengfeng saw the information on it, his eyes almost popped out. You drew over the demonic beasts from 3 surrounding regions? The formation disc showed countless demonic beasts rushing over to the 7th Legion's camp. Their numbers were several times greater than the current demonic beasts attacking. Long Chen, did we go too far? If the 3rd Legion is destroyed, Shen Chengfeng's voice shuddered. If Long Chen conned Yi Lingfeng to death, that would not be playing around. If the 3rd Legion over here was destroyed, it would be a catastrophe. Don't worry, everything is under control, promised Long Chen. This battle will naturally draw the attention of the surrounding demonic beasts. When the other legions see that the demonic beasts are about to break through this defensive line, they'll naturally come to reinforce it. That's precisely why we'll be able to profit the most. I don't like doing small things. Even if a piece of meat were to jump into my mouth on its own, I'd be too lazy to eat it if it was too small. As expected, when the reinforcements of the demonic beasts arrived, the 3rd Legion was no longer able to endure and was starting to show signs of crumbling. Yi Lingfeng went all out, but no matter how strong he was, he couldn't defend the entire line. He could only suppress one region, but the others were unable to endure. Commander, we must retreat, shouted one of the vice commanders. The demonic beasts were like a growing tide, and they were about to force the 3rd Legion to the point of no return. If they still didn't retreat, they would be surrounded and doomed. The space within the ancient battlefield was not stable enough to set up long-distance transportation formations. By this point, even if they requested help, it couldn't possibly arrive in time. Furthermore, the closest group to them was the 8th Legion. With how weak they were, their reinforcements would be useless. That was not mentioning whether or not the 8th Legion would even want to help them. Have the large equipment pull back for now and unleash the full power of the arrow towers. There's no need to consider the lifespan of the arrow towers, ordered Yi Lingfeng furiously. The arrow towers were stationary equipment that could not be moved freely. Once they lost this defensive line, those arrow towers would definitely be broken. Hence, upon hearing his order, the runes on the arrow towers ignited. Their arrows doubled in power. With dozens of arrow towers unleashing a crazy rain of arrows, the demonic beasts were forced back. Those arrow towers are ruined. They won't even have any value now, said Shen Chengfeng. To the 8th Legion, every arrow tower was an important trump card to protect their lives. Seeing Yi Lingfeng sacrifice over 60 of them at once, he didn't know what to feel. It's not like they're your arrow towers. Long Chen smiled. But we want them. Shen Chengfeng shrugged. Well, as long as this play finishes, I guarantee you'll have more than enough arrow towers, said Long Chen. Shen Chengfeng was so poor that he'd feel bad for his enemies over this. Boom. The arrow towers began to explode one by one, crumbling into rubble. However, they had accomplished their mission. The 3rd Legion had gained the time to pull back all the mobile weaponry they had. Retreat. Without the arrow towers, they no longer had the power to stop this tide of demonic beasts. Yi Lingfeng waved his hand, and the last batch of warriors flew into the 3 war chariots. The war chariots had immense offensive and defensive power. They were also extremely fast. They were treasures that Shen Chengfeng and the others dreamed of having. With the war chariots, they could safely retreat. This was the power of money. The defensive line was broken, and the demonic beasts seemed to feel like they had won, charging inside. They quickly destroyed all the buildings that had been set up as they chased after Yi Lingfeng. The Third Legion quickly retreated, with the space growing narrower. There were giant spatial cracks to the side. Half an incense stick's worth of time later, another camp appeared. That was the 7th Legion's second line of defense. Once they had retreated to that second line, Yi Lingfeng jumped off his chariot and sneered at the demonic beasts. He waved his hand. Explosions suddenly occurred from underground. It was unknown what was hidden there, but thick smoke had enveloped the demonic beasts. The smoke seemed to terrify the demonic beasts. They fled, with those behind also wanting to retreat when they saw it. Demonic beasts began to collapse onto the ground, powerless. Idiot demon race, I'll be using your corpses to make up for our losses. Brothers dash. Yi Lingfeng was suddenly interrupted by consecutive explosions occurring amongst the demonic beasts. Blinding light filled the sky. As they covered their eyes, a voice he hated rang out in their ears. Brothers of the Third Legion, don't be afraid. The 8th Legion is here to save you. Brothers, take the— oh wait, no, kill the demonic beasts. It sound explosion light bombs. Yi Lingfeng roared furiously when he recognized what the blinding light was, as well as recognizing that the hateful voice came from Long Chen. He had given up the first line in order to draw the demonic beasts into a narrow opening between two spatial cracks. Those spatial cracks contained the terrifying wills of two experts who had once fought to the death here. Despite the time that had passed, their wills remained. Thanks to the erosion of those two wills, this place had a special effect on other people's wills. By putting bewitching smoke here, it was possible to make even powerful demonic beasts collapse. Bastards, you're stealing our spoils of war. Everyone from the Third Legion was enraged. The sound explosion light bombs were especially effective in this place. The demonic beasts would lose their hearing and sight temporarily, and their souls would become sluggish for just a breath's time. But that effect was amplified by the smoke. Clearly, Long Chen had included it all in his calculations. As for the Third Legion, the smoke continued to block their path, making Yi Lingfeng so furious that he felt like he might explode. Those bastards! Kill them all. Use our long-range attacks to clear out the battlefield, roared Yi Lingfeng. Commander, we can't. How are we supposed to explain ourselves if we kill them? The vice-commanders and the others all jumped. Although it was possible for them to bully the 8th Legion, they definitely couldn't kill them. The killer would definitely be executed. After all, this was a competition amongst members of the divine families, and it had restrictions. Killing each other was not permitted. Yi Lingfeng simply continued to curse. They had lost their first line of defense, sacrificed their arrow towers, exposed their secret trump card, and the moment for them to reap the harvest had been taken by others. The bewitching smoke had yet to scatter, so he didn't dare to go over. Most hateful of all, he heard the voices coming from the other side. Our 8th Legion will not sit by while our comrades are killed. We will fight together for the divine families. Even if we have to sacrifice our lives, it doesn't matter. When our brothers are in trouble, we must assist them. This is our duty. Although some people are inhuman, would we be so petty as to quarrel with such little people? We will show everyone what it means to repay enmity with kindness. Brothers of the Third Legion, don't worry. We'll risk our lives to hold back your enemies. You must flee. These were all phrases that Long Chen had come up and rehearsed with the 8th Legion. Yes, they were extremely moving. Yi Lingfeng's vision darkened. He almost fainted. The warriors around him cried out in shock. Commander, are you all right? Yi Lingfeng's face was twisted into a frightening expression. He was hysterical. Long Chen, you'll pay the price for your foolish actions. Commander Yi Lingfeng, why are you shouting like a rabid dog? We risked our lives to come help you, but instead of thanking us, you act so hostile? It truly makes a person's heart cold. Long Chen's voice came from within the smoke, and Yi Lingfeng didn't even have the power to retort. He suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. Commander! Commander Yi, Your moral character is far too narrow. How could someone with so little ability and such a bad temperament be a commander? It really is inconceivable. Long Chen's voice rang out once more. Yi Lingfeng began to spasm. Quick, place the commander in the chariot and block out all sounds. The vice-commanders were pale. Yi Lingfeng was showing signs of becoming bedeviled. If Long Chen said any more, he might just die from anger. One of the commanders clapped Yi Lingfeng in the back of his head, causing him to faint. They brought him into the carriage and isolated him from the sounds of the outside world. Long Chen, you son of a bitch, you are openly stealing our spoils. We'll report this to the Heaven Executioner. And the 8th Legion, you really are idiots. Are you not afraid of our reprisal? Cursed the vice-commander that had previously taunted Long Chen and Shen Chengfeng. Long Chen had truly been vicious this time. Even with their powerful fortifications, they had still lost over 70 warriors, as well as the arrow towers and the camp. If Long Chen hadn't come, then killing these demonic beasts would have allowed them to make up for some of their losses. But Long Chen had actually come to take their painfully won fruit. Long Chen didn't respond. Instead, Shen Chengfeng sneered, "How laughable! Your reprisal? When did the 8th Legion provoke you into causing us to lose our camp? Why weren't you afraid of our reprisal? Now that you've forced us to the point of no return, why aren't we allowed our vengeance?" Cough, this isn't vengeance. Yes, we are in no way admitting to that. We came to save you. Yes, that's it, corrected Long Chen. Shen Chengfeng had slipped up due to his anger. Sometimes rules really were a case of burying one's head in the sand, but there was still no choice. Long Chen's meaning was clear. Yes, they had come for vengeance, but they weren't admitting to it. What could you do about that? Brothers, protect our brothers of the 3rd Legion. Even if we have to fight to the death, we won't hesitate, shouted Long Chen. Arrows rained down on those demonic beasts that were lying powerless on the ground from the bewilderment smoke and sound explosion light bombs. The 8th Legion's warriors were holding giant crossbows. It took over 10 people to carry each one, but they were shooting crazily. The ones who had charged to the front were amongst the strongest members of the demon race. As for the ones at the rear, they had fled. As a result, the only things to shoot were essentially live targets. They were quickly killed. Although these crossbows had been taken out of the arrow towers and so they weren't as powerful without it as a base, the good thing was that they were mobile and still possessed enough power to kill the demonic beasts. The 8th Legion's warriors had never had such a successful operation. Some of them were tasked with cleaning up the battlefield, and they quickly picked up the corpses. After all, those corpses were money. A torrent of money was entering their pockets with every blink. Hurry, the effect of the sound explosion light bombs is about to fade, urged Long Chen. The problem wasn't that the demonic beasts would awaken. The problem was that the bewildering smoke would return while they were in the midst of cleaning up the battlefield. Then they would also be affected. Those corpses aren't yours, demanded one of the vice-commanders. Based on the rules, they couldn't take what they hadn't killed. Who said that they weren't ours? Any corpse with one of our arrows on it is ours, said Long Chen innocently. The 8th Legion's warriors' eyes brightened. That was true. Even if they didn't kill the corpse, they just had to make it look like they had. Hurry, hurry, pressed Long Chen. If Long Chen gave them a medicinal pill to eat, it would have been possible for them to resist the effect of the smoke. But he didn't want to use his own power. He wanted to use the power of the 8th Legion to con Yi Lingfeng. There's no need to be miserly. Let's go. When the battlefield was essentially cleaned up and Long Chen saw some of them looking for pieces of corpses in the ground, he shook his head. Long Chen was truly experiencing just how poor the 8th Legion was and their habits. Brothers of the 3rd Legion, through our bloody battle, our tenacious effort, the spilling of our blood, we've finally managed to help you stop your enemies. You're safe now and can come out of hiding. There's no need to thank us with a meal, as we'll be going now. The 8th Legion's warriors cried out in unison and then left. An hour later, the bewildering smoke faded. The 3rd Legion's warriors charged through the narrow pass. Up to a certain point, there were still a few corpses left behind for them. But eventually, it was like the battlefield had been severed with a knife, and everything on the other side was gone. Damn Longchen, damn Shen Feng. Just wait. Yi Lingfeng had just woken up. He saw that fewer than 1/10 of the corpses remained. 90% of the spoils had fallen into Long Chen's hands. He was so furious that he once more coughed up a mouthful of blood. Long Chen and the others had only just returned to the 8th Legion's camp when Yi Lingfeng came charging over with his people. Long Chen, Shen Feng, hand over our spoils or I will annihilate the 8th Legion today. Yi Lingfeng's roar resounded throughout heaven and earth. His voice was full of hatred and resentment. Through this one battle, they had lost so much, but had only gotten less than 1/10 of the spoils. Tens of thousands of experts from the 3rd Legion were now standing in the 8th Legion's camp. They were so angry it looked like they might spontaneously combust at any moment. Aya, aren't you that Commander Yi? Why did you come over here so ferociously? Long Chen walked out, looking at him like a kindly elder. The act almost made him laugh, but he managed to keep up his appearance. Why? Hand over our things, roared Yi Lingfeng. Long Chen looked at him disdainfully. Commander Yi, this time you're wrong. We came rushing over to the 3rd Legion from such a great distance to help you, but instead of being grateful, you come here looking like you want to kill people? It truly makes a person's heart cold. Some of the people beside Yi Lingfeng felt these words to be so familiar, but the 8th Legion's people all knew that this was how Yi Lingfeng had treated them before when taking their spoils. Bullshit. This was your scheme. Hand over the spoils right now, demanded Yi Lingfeng, also noticing that imitation. Your spoils? Did they have your name on them? You. What you? Have you forgotten how arrogant and domineering you were when you took our spoils? Let me tell you, the demonic beasts that we killed have our arrows in them. That's the proof. Whoever killed the prey gets it. Didn't you say that last time? It's your own crap, returned to you untouched, right? Sneered Long Chen. Yi Lingfeng had taken the 8th Legion's spoils in a similar way, infuriating the warriors. Now the wheel had turned, and spitting back Yi Lingfeng's words right at him was a cathartic release for Shen Feng and the others. That's completely different. You were the ones who drew the demonic beasts over to our side maliciously. As long as this is reported to the Heaven Executioner, just a few searches through some souls will show the truth. Did you really think your scheme was seamless? Shouted Yi Lingfeng. Shen Feng's expression changed slightly when the Heaven Executioner was mentioned. The Heaven Executioner was someone who handled big things in the divine families. If this matter ended up growing any bigger, it would be troublesome. The truth? Isn't it already very clear? Our actions were all open and above board. If you want to say something, then say it, urged Long Chen. You. Yi Lingfeng switched targets. Shen Feng, Long Chen doesn't care if you live or die. He can just leave whenever he wants. But as for you, are you willing to throw your lives away? Shen Feng put on a calm exterior, but he was a bit panicked inside. He didn't have Long Chen's guts. He had the entire 8th Legion to consider. This truly wasn't a good thing. Quite a few people of the 3rd Legion had died. If this matter was further investigated, it wouldn't be good. Just as Shen Feng was dwelling in his fear, Long Chen suddenly laughed. Yi Lingfeng, playing this game with me is stupid. I can use my left foot to outthink you. You want to use the Heaven Executioner to suppress others? It doesn't matter who you bring this up to. Yes, this was arranged by me, but I was arranging for the demonic beasts to be drawn over to our camp so that we could exterminate them. You suddenly charged into our plans, completely messing things up. You were the ones who drew the demonic beasts away. When you lost your camp, we clearly had no chance of victory, but we still took the risk to come save you. So tell me just who is afraid of who? This entire battle plan was drawn up by me, and even Commander Shen had to listen to my orders, let alone the other warriors. If I say something is black, then it's black. If I want it to be white the next instant, then it's automatically white. Who can say anything? So I'll tell you what the truth is. This is the consequence of maliciously ruining our plans. If you have to blame anyone, blame yourself, understand? Hearing Long Chen put it this way, Shen Feng and the others almost prostrated themselves before him. This whole thing had been set up by Long Chen, And it seemed that the only reason he hadn't told them the plan was precisely to counter this play by Yi Lingfeng. After thinking about it, this result was due to Yi Lingfeng charging into their battlefield. All the consequences would have to be borne by him. As long as Long Chen didn't admit he was intentionally conning him, no one could do anything about it. Now their backs straightened. So, he wished to tell the Heaven Executioner? Then go ahead, it was all his own fault anyway. Yi Lingfeng was finally at a loss for words. This had truly started because he wanted to ruin the 8th Legion's plans and take their spoils. Now he had been burned from touching the fire. No one would be able to blame Long Chen for this. In other words, Long Chen hadn't left them anything to use against him. I don't care. Hand over our things or I'll wipe you out right here and now, barked Yi Lingfeng. If loud voices were what ruled things, donkeys would be in command of this world. You want to wipe us out? Then just try it. Let's see if you have the guts, sneered Long Chen contemptuously. Yi Lingfeng ground his teeth to the point that they were about to splinter. He didn't dare to attack. Amongst the legions, friction was only natural, but open slaughter was absolutely not permitted. If he killed even one of them, he wouldn't be escaping alive either. What are you glaring at me for? Shouldn't you fuck off now? Are you waiting for us to treat you to a meal? Sorry, but we don't have the money. We haven't counted our spoils from the last battle, so you should scram. Long Chen flapped his hand at Yi Lingfeng's furious glare like shooing away a bug. Fine. Long Chen Xinqingfeng, just wait. My things aren't so easy to take. I'll make you regret this. Yi Lingfeng's voice came from between the cracks in his teeth. He brought his people away. Once he was gone, the 8th Legion's warriors erupted into cheers. Amazing, Yi Lingfeng looked like his dad had just died. I suddenly realized how blessed we are. Fuck, we finally got to vent. I feel like my next bottleneck has even weakened. The feeling of revenge is about to burst out of my chest. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen actually conned Yi Lingfeng to this point. The 8th Legion's warriors were so excited that it couldn't be described with words. They were still floating in the clouds. The resentment that had been accumulating for years was finally released. That feeling wasn't something an outsider could understand. Brother Long, I really admire you. This scheming is something I'll never be able to learn, praised Xinqingfeng. Long Chen shook his head. This little trick is practically shameful. If it was taken out in the secular world's empires, people would laugh at you for trying such things. But it's enough for Yi Lingfeng. A higher-level scheme might not even work on that idiot. Long Chen, aren't you saying that we're also idiots? Xinqingfeng bitterly smiled. You were born in the cultivation world and live off of martial power, so you don't need schemes. But I was born in the secular world in a noble family that was about to be crushed. I grew experienced with these schemes from a young age. In the secular world, individual power doesn't vary much. When two people are equally powerful, then schemes can show their usefulness. But in your world, it's a joke, because as long as you can crush your opponents with power, no scheme will make up for it. Tell me, if I was in the Xiantian realm and possessed unparalleled intelligence, do you think I could beat you? No, that would be impossible. Exactly. Just remember that fish and bears have different skills, and you can't have both. If you waste your time scheming, your cultivation speed will definitely be slowed. For me, playing these kinds of games is just for some occasional fun. Don't fall for it, warned Long Chen. Shen Qingfeng's heart shook, and he hastily said, I understand. But, has everything been counted up yet? We have enough to reclaim our first defensive line. Just half our points should be enough for that. We also have enough to reward the warriors and equip them better. Shen Qingfeng's eyes shone with excitement. Why would taking back your territory require points? Asked Long Chen. HM? I don't understand. If we don't use the points for various besieging apparatus, how are we supposed to take back our camp? Isn't there still Yi Lingfeng and the others? What? Boom. Fuck. As soon as Yi Lingfeng returned to his camp, he smashed apart a stone platform. His face was frightening. The others didn't dare to say a word. He wants to play with me? Fine, I'll play with you. I'll play you to death, raged Yi Lingfeng. Thinking of how the 8th Legion was definitely counting their money with delight and deciding how to use their new wealth, Yi Lingfeng felt like he might burst. He turned around. Second Commander, go to our camp and bring the Divine Dragon Tyrant crossbow. The Vice Commander's expression instantly changed. Commander, that's a killing weapon. Without it, our own camp would be in danger. What are you afraid of? Just do it secretly. Our camp is solid, and demonic beasts haven't attacked it in forever. It's always us going hunting. It's not like we have any demonic beast spies amongst us. Just don't go telling them. How would they know? Said Yi Lingfeng coldly. But, no buts. I will bear responsibility for it, so hurry up. It takes a long time to dismantle and set the Divine Dragon Tyrant crossbow up, so do it quickly. I want to use it while Long Chen and the others are trying to take back their first defensive line, said Yi Lingfeng. The Vice Commander helplessly listened to his orders. Third Commander, go back and use all our points for Heaven Concealing Stones, Heaven Exploding Lightning, and Killing Formation Discs. Yi Lingfeng turned to another Vice Commander. All our points? The Vice Commander jumped in shock. That's all. I'm going to go big this time. Fuck. Long Chen dares to scheme against me? Then I'll scheme him to death. When they try to reclaim their territory, we'll launch a sneak attack on the surrounding 9 large demonic beast races and draw them all over. Commander, the 8th Legion will be completely wiped out if that happens. Even in the best case, half of them will die. Do you really want to do this? Asked the Vice Commander. If the higher-ups were to learn of this, there would definitely be executions. If we don't do this, how am I supposed to resolve my fury? Demanded Yi Lingfeng. But this is too much. It will definitely startle the higher-ups. What are you afraid of? What do you think Long Chen came here for? The Long family is clearly trying to restrict us. Putting it bluntly, we represent the Yi family, and he represents the Long family. We're the chess pieces of these two families, and now we have to see which one of us beats the other. Since Long Chen was the one to not care about the rules first, he can't blame us for being vicious. Do you think the higher-ups don't know about our fight with the 8th Legion? They are well aware. As long as we don't personally kill anyone, what can they say? A sinister smile appeared on Yi Lingfeng's face. But if it's further investigated, the Vice Commander did not want to end up becoming a scapegoat over this matter. That kind of death would be far too sullen. Perhaps the commander would be spared, but he and the other Vice Commander would be in danger. After all, a scapegoat had to be a perfect fit that wasn't too big to be important but not too small to seem inconsequential. The Vice Commander position was a perfect fit for such a thing. Yi Lingfeng sneered, "Do you have a problem with your head? Don't you remember how Long Chen just conned us? Even if it's investigated, we will say that the heavy losses we took meant that we had to take some drastic measures to make up for it. We launched a large sneak attack while our enemies were paralyzed. There were no problems around our strategy, but suddenly some unexpected things occurred, resulting in some of the demonic beasts breaking out of the encirclement and charging into the 8th Legion's camp. Who can guarantee that a battle will go according to plan? Who can guarantee that no accidents will occur? Since that's the case, who can say anything? At worst, we'll just have to give some compensation. No matter how much that compensation is, do you think the Yi family won't support us in secret?" The Vice Commander immediately said, "The Commander is wise. Hurry up." Yi Lingfeng waved his hand, sending him off. He clenched his fists. "Long Chen, I'll teach you what regret is." The demonic beasts had grown in number over the past few days. The battle last time had made them wary. Shen Qingfeng had found that there were even more demonic beasts guarding their old camp. Clearly, they also knew that the 8th Legion might want to reclaim it. "Qingfeng, isn't this strange? You've killed so many demonic beasts. Why haven't any of the stronger members of the demonic beasts come?" asked Long Chen. "Due to the immense battle that occurred here, the laws have created a suppression so that even existences that surpass the Nether Passage realm are suppressed back to the level of the Nether Passage realm. That's why we won't encounter any experts on that level. The human race is the same. Those above the Nether Passage realm will also be suppressed. If they came, it would be dangerous for them. For example, if it was you and you were suppressed to the Xiantian realm, wouldn't you feel wronged if you then died to a group of Xiantian rookies? Explained Xin Chengfeng. Ah, I see. Long Chen nodded. That's not all. The ancient battlefield has countless mystical places. Some regions will strip a person of their spiritual strength, and some are cut off from the heavenly Daos. Some places will essentially turn you into a mortal. To sum up, there are far too many unknowns about this place, and the demonic beasts are in our way if we want to go deeper. As a result, this battle has continued for countless years. The demonic beasts prevent us from exploring the entire ancient battlefield. Only those on the level of Senior Feng Fei dare to enter its depths, sighed Xin Chenfeng. Is Feng Fei truly so powerful? Long Chen frowned. Based on Xin Chengfeng's tone, it was like Feng Fei was a god. It's not just that she's powerful, it's that she's so powerful that it brings forth despair. You've never seen her fight, so you don't know. But based on my understanding of the two of you, I still feel like she's above you. Your chances of winning would be less than 20%, said Shun Chengfeng sincerely. It seems that she really is powerful, said Long Chen. For someone as steady as Xin Chengfeng to say such a thing after seeing him fight meant that she was truly powerful. Shen Chengfeng suddenly looked at him so oddly that Long Chen started to get goosebumps. What are you looking at me like that for? Shen Chengfeng looked around, and seeing no one around, he whispered, I've heard that Brother Long is unparalleled at picking up girls. Let me tell you, if you could seduce, if you could move her heart, you would no longer have any enemies. What? Where did you hear that from? Long Chen almost spat. When had he earned the title of unparalleled at picking up girls? Whoever had come up with that definitely wanted him to be beaten up. Hee, does this need to be said? You have so many heavenly fairies by your side who love you so deeply. Who else has that ability? Senior Feng Fei is very prideful, so most people aren't qualified to even enter her sight. If you could obtain her heart, you would truly be a tiger with wings. In my eyes, your talent isn't inferior to hers. You are only lacking her support. Long Chen shook his head. I, Long Chen, don't need to do such a thing, right? I've managed to keep my integrity until now even if I have nothing else. I won't lower my head like that. Sorry, I wasn't trying to put it that way. Shen Chengfeng apologized. Long Chen had his own pride. To rely on seducing a woman to climb was practically an insult to him. It was true that whoever obtained Feng Fei's favor would instantly become a dragon, but Long Chen disdained doing such a thing. Despite Shen Chengfeng's good intentions, the atmosphere was now a bit awkward. Long Chen said, It's fine. Let's discuss how we'll take back our camp. Yes, let's talk about real matters. Shen Chengfeng hastily nodded, trying to forget about that awkward topic. Have you bought everything that I asked for? Asked Long Che. Yes. But are those things really capable of taking back our territory? Asked Shen Chengfeng curiously. The list that Long Chen had given him was full of nonsense to Shen Chengfeng. There were some random medicines, sulfur powder, lime dust, and most incomprehensible of all, gongs, drums, and firecrackers. Even though he had questions, he had still bought them all. The divine families had everything except the firecrackers, so he had been forced to go to the martial heaven continent to buy those. Alright, then I'll teach you one more move today. Remember, those with powerful martial force don't need to use their heads. There are only two reasons to do such a thing. One is if two sides are equally matched in power, so you need to use your head to increase your chances of victory. The other reason is to use the smallest price to make the greatest gains, said Long Chen. Then we're doing the latter this time? No, we're doing neither. I want to piss off Yi Lingfeng to the point that he simply dies from rage. I want Yi Lingfeng to know that the goal isn't to play with him. The goal is to play him to death, said Long Chen sinisterly. All right, let's talk to our brothers about the plan. Tomorrow we will reclaim our land. Get excited. I'll bring you to play a game that will definitely stimulate you. The next day, the 8th Legion moved out in high spirits. The warriors were completely different from before. Their broken-down armor had been replaced, and their weapons were also new. Their eyes were full of new confidence, which stemmed from their heavy pockets. Following Long Chen's suggestion, the Legion itself had only kept 1/10 of their gains from the last operation. The rest had been split between every individual warrior. With their pockets full, their backs naturally straightened. They had equipped themselves and bought some helpful talismans and other items that could potentially save their lives. They had had high expectations for Long Chen from the start, and he hadn't disappointed them. Now that Long Chen was leading them on another expedition, they felt their blood heating up. It could be said that the entire 8th Legion had undergone a transformation. When they were getting close to their original camp, Long Chen waved his hand, and everyone immediately stopped. "Brothers, our camp is right ahead. That is the place where we once spilled our blood. That place is our pride and our humiliation. Countless brothers died in battle there, and we lost it. We've disappointed those brothers. Today, we will reclaim it and wipe away our humiliation. We'll use the heads of the demonic beasts as an offering to our fallen brothers, use their blood to carve our brilliance, use their corpses as proof to everyone that the 8th Legion is rising. Everyone who looks down on us will know that our fortunes have changed. Brothers, we fight for our honor." For honor! The voices of the 8th Legion's warriors shook the land. Shen Chengfeng also clenched his fists. The 8th Legion had always been full of potential, but he had never been able to draw it out. With just one battle, Long Chen had completely transformed them. He was ashamed of himself but also filled with anticipation for what was next. He saw many things that he didn't possess within Long Chen. He also saw a quality that none of the commanders of the Heavenly Dragon Legion possessed. It was the confidence that was built up within Long Chen's bones that made it seem like there was nothing he couldn't solve. That posed a fatal charisma to others. Excellent. This is precisely the state required to grasp victory from danger. Everyone, I'll give you an hour to reach your peak state. Look over your bodies and your equipment. Send scouts to keep an eye on the surroundings. If there's anything suspicious, report it immediately, ordered Long Chen. Everyone made their final checks before the battle. Some went out to scout the surroundings, and they quickly returned to report that there was nothing off. Shen Chengfeng secretly said, "The tripwire we set before has been triggered." Long Chen smiled and didn't say anything. An incense stick's worth of time later, he waved his hand. "Move out." "Didn't you say to wait an hour?" asked Shen Chengfeng. "That was just for others to hear. Did you believe it? Why would we need an hour to prepare for battle?" said Long Chen. Reclaiming their camp would not be playing house. It would be a bloody battle. Who would really be so careless as to not check their equipment before coming? Such a lie would have been instantly seen through in the secular world. Not even a child would believe it. However, in the cultivation world, where power was everything, it seemed that such a lie was believable. Since even Shen Chengfeng had believed it, Long Chen was no longer worried about his enemies not believing it. They quickly arrived at a narrow pass. On one side, space was constantly warping with a frightening black hole at the center. On the other side was a giant mountain covered in ice. The icy air coming off of it made people feel like their souls would freeze if they even looked at it. That was also a place that no one could approach. Between them was the camp of the 8th Legion. However, all the buildings had been torn down. Countless demonic beasts were residing within the camp now. This camp was a checkpoint that had to be passed in order to enter deeper into the ancient battlefield. Just defending it before had been taxing for the 8th Legion. Now that they were forced to be the attackers, they would have to pay a terrible price considering how much of an advantage the terrain gave to the defenders. Suddenly, a roar came from within the camp. Following that, the demonic beasts began to pour out. "Little human race, coming here is sending yourselves to die. You should scram," shouted one of the Titan Blood Bull demons. "Long Chen, something's wrong. It seems like there are fewer demonic beasts here than before. Furthermore, they're telling us to scram instead of directly attacking," said Shen Chengfeng. After the last sneak attack, the demonic beasts here had increased in number, but now they had decreased again. "They're baiting us. Even demonic beasts play these kinds of schemes? But their intelligence is far too low. Use the formation disk to check the surrounding space and see if there's anything hiding," said Long Chen. Commander, there are countless terrifying auras in the surroundings. They are dozens of times greater than what they appear on the surface, exclaimed one of the vice commanders suddenly. With their new wealth, Long Chen had had them by a powerful sensing formation that now managed to sense countless powerful auras hiding. Long Chen waved his hand. Everything is within expectations. We aren't hiding that we are going to reclaim our land. Weren't we shouting over there as well just so that they could prepare themselves? But this little scheme of theirs is excellent. They're practically cooperating with us. We don't have to waste as many of the things as we have prepared. The time's about right, so we can attack. Shen Qingfeng immediately gave the order. He summoned his manifestation and charged into the army of the demonic beasts. As soon as Shen Qingfeng moved, the various crossbows set up at the rear unleashed long-distance attacks, tearing a path through the demonic beasts all the way into the camp. Shen Qingfeng charged into the camp, only to find that the demonic beasts here were extremely weak, unable to bear a single blow from him. Those demonic beasts began to flee when he entered. "Commander, the surrounding demonic beasts are starting to surround us," shouted the vice commander with the sensor apparatus. "No need to bother with them. Have the people at the rear slow down a bit. We'll just all enter and follow the plan," said Long Chen. The 8th Legion's warriors slowly entered their old camp. The first wave immediately began setting up a tower. This tower wasn't an arrow tower. It was specially set up for extremely long-range shots. Normally, it shot out distress signals asking for aid. After all, nothing was guaranteed on the battlefield, and other items used for sending messages might end up losing effect right when they were needed. This long-range tower could save someone's life at such a time. This tower was able to shoot arrows with special runes for breaking through space, and that allowed them to shoot extremely far. But unfortunately, that was all. Its arrows didn't possess killing power. After it was set up, Long Chen stood on top of it and looked into the distance. At this time, those hidden demonic beasts were starting to surround them secretly. As long as all the 8th Legion entered their camp, they would instantly pounce. "Why are they so slow? Yiling Feng, you better not disappoint me." Long Chen looked into the distance, his confidence starting to flag. He couldn't have run into something unexpected, right? "Have the warriors slow down and stall for more time," ordered Long Chen. A moment later, Shen Qingfeng's expression changed. The demonic beasts seemed to be losing patience. "They're not waiting any longer. Fuck, what is Yiling Feng doing? He can't even do something so small? Have everyone get in," said Long Chen helplessly. Just at that moment, the surrounding demonic beasts came out from their hiding places and attacked from every direction. "Ah, good, they also came." Suddenly, Long Chen saw the space in the distance collapse. Countless demonic beasts were chasing a group of people over. Seeing Yiling Feng, Long Chen was delighted. "Has Yiling Feng gone mad? If we all die here, he won't be getting out alive either." Shen Qingfeng was shocked and enraged that Yiling Feng would do such a thing. They saw Yiling Feng dragging a giant dragon-shaped flying boat with his 3 war chariots. This flying boat was the Divine Family's supreme killing item, the Divine Dragon Tyrant Crossbow. The body of the boat was the body of the crossbow, while the 2 wings were the arms. The string was dozens of meters thick. There were giant arrows constantly being fired. Every time the string quivered, a giant arrow would pierce through the void. It didn't matter what cultivation base the demonic beasts had, they would still be blasted apart. This was a weapon capable of even killing heaven elders. It was an extremely important treasure and also the strongest trump card of the 3rd Legion. But it was so huge that it required 3 war chariots just to move it. Every shot of it was incredibly expensive. Even if the 8th Legion had one, they couldn't afford to use it. It was the sight of the Divine Dragon Tyrant Crossbow that infuriated Shen Qingfeng the most. Yiling Feng actually wanted them all dead. Yiling Feng sneered. He saw Long Chen and the others surrounded by the demonic beasts. "Stop shooting. There's no need to waste more arrows." Suddenly, the earth exploded and a giant bubble of light appeared in a certain spot. The chariots pulled into the bubble and space began to twist. This was actually a giant transportation formation capable of being set up within the ancient battlefield. Yi Lingfeng had clearly come prepared. Due to the size of the divine dragon tyrant crossbow, they couldn't move that far with the formation, but it would definitely be enough to get out of sight. Despite the short range, just this one formation had come at an incredible price. Yi Lingfeng had truly put down the capital to eliminate Long Chen and the 8th Legion. Long Chen, just let me properly enjoy the sight of you dying, sneered Yi Lingfeng. What is that? Suddenly, the second commander pointed out the tower that Long Chen was on. It's used for sending messages. Who are they trying to message? No, it's pointed right at us. Boom. The tower lit up and an arrow tore through space. As it got close to them, it suddenly exploded into multicolored powder like a beautiful firework. It seems different from the fluctuations of a distress signal. What are they doing? Ignore them. Activate the transportation formation, ordered Yi Lingfeng. He also felt that something was a bit off. Commander, the surrounding spatial fluctuations have changed. The formation is unable to activate, cried the second commander suddenly. The transportation formation quivered a few times when he tried to activate it, but nothing else happened. Long Chen must have set this up. He broke our transportation formation. We dug our own graves. The third commander quickly fell into despair. This meant that they were doomed. The second commander kept trying, roaring. That arrow contains spatial chaos dust. We won't be able to use the transportation formation temporarily. How long? Demanded Yi Lingfeng. At least an hour. But the demonic beasts we drew over will arrive within a minute. Then the formation will still be useless as their attacks will disrupt space. The second commander also fell into despair. At this moment, furious roars suddenly rang out. Yi Lingfeng was shocked to find that somehow, Long Chen and the 8th Legion had vanished. As for the demonic beasts that had surrounded them, having lost their target, they now cut the 3rd Legion off at the rear. Bastards, they definitely used the hidden transportation formation set up underground, raged Yi Lingfeng. The camps had secret formations set up underground. Those formations had been built up for hundreds of years. Even if the camp was lost, the demonic beasts wouldn't know the secret entrance to those formations, so they could only destroy the buildings above ground. There was a secret transportation formation underground, but it was not to be used unless there was no other choice. If it was activated, it would expose the secret of the formations underground. However, today, Shin Chengfeng had activated it, bringing everyone away. They had also destroyed the entrance. The demonic beasts hadn't even understood what was happening. They had just felt a powerful explosion that had killed the ones closest to the camp before Long Chen, and the others had vanished without a trace. A strange scent hung in the air after the explosion. Any demonic beast that smelled it would start becoming violent. Their eyes reddened, and without any considerations, they charged over at Yi Lingfeng and the others. Have the 3 chariots surround the divine dragon tyrant crossbow. We'll set up our defenses here. Send out distress calls for aid, shouted Yi Lingfeng. It was too late to run. If the divine dragon tyrant crossbow was pointed in the direction of the camp, then by using its power, he was 80% confident in being able to charge through. Unfortunately, it was pointing in the wrong direction, and with its giant body, turning it around would take more than the few seconds that they had before their enemies arrived. They had no choice but to endure here and hope for reinforcements. Yi Lingfeng quickly gave orders. Transfer the divine dragon tyrant crossbow's power to the war chariots. It's no longer useful. The divine dragon tyrant crossbow began to blaze with light. That light poured into the 3 chariots. The chariots rumbled. Runic swords shot out, slaughtering the approaching demonic beasts. Using the chariots, they formed a domain of death for the demonic beasts. However, there were still cracks between the chariots that were covered by the 3rd Legion's warriors. They couldn't allow the demonic beasts to charge through to the divine dragon tyrant crossbow. The divine dragon tyrant crossbow was currently their greatest source of power. If it was broken, then just the 3 chariots alone would not last even an incense stick's worth of time before running out of energy. Brothers, endure! The distress signal has been sent out. and we've received a reply that people will come save us," shouted Yilingfeng. The divine families would send word to the other experts in the ancient battlefield to come assist them as soon as they received the distress signal. They only had to endure until those reinforcements arrived. Unfortunately, enduring until then was not easy. These demonic beasts were attacking crazily without fear for their own lives. These demonic beasts, did they take the wrong medicine? Why are they so crazy? The 3rd Legion's warriors were all green with fright due to the crazy demonic beasts. It feels off. They've become far more violent than they usually are. These demonic beasts were just foolishly charging up to the chariots, completely ignoring the runic swords blasting out of them. After the first wave died, the second wave would take its place. There was no end to them. Fuck, it's definitely something Long Chen did. Yilingfeng clenched his teeth furiously. Although he didn't know what had happened, he was sure that he had been schemed against by Long Chen again. "Commander, Long Chen and the others have returned." Through the cracks between the tide of demonic beasts, the 3rd Legion could see the camp. What they saw made their heads almost explode. Long Chen and the 8th Legion were currently in the process of setting up their defenses. Once everything was set up there, they could reactivate the formations to restore the camp to the way it was before. Then the demonic beasts would find it extremely difficult to break through again. The reason that it had been broken through last time was because Shen Chengfeng and the majority of the 8th Legion's warriors had been forced to guard the Yin-Yang world, while someone else had lured a mass of demonic beasts over. In truth, the 8th Legion's camp was stronger than the 7th Legion's because the 8th Legion was so weak. As a result, the defensive camp was their trump card that protected their lives. That was also why they had become such a joke after losing it. For them to lose even with such a powerful defensive trump card was a humiliation. Now, Long Chen was standing on top of the new buildings with a bright smile. Beside him, Shen Chengfeng said, "I never imagined that we could take back our camp without spilling a single drop of blood." All they had done was charge into the camp, unleash an arrow, charge underground, set off an explosion, and then use the formation to return to their second camp. When they returned, the demonic beasts were ignoring them and crazily attacking Yilingfeng. They could enjoy that sight as they rebuilt their camp. "They've spotted us," said Shen Chengfeng. "It's curious," said Long Chen. "What's curious?" "Their gazes don't seem too friendly. It's so puzzling." "Yes, it really is puzzling." Shen Chengfeng and Long Chen exchanged a glance and burst into laughter. The warriors of the 8th Legion quickly set up their constructions. Once it was complete, the underground formation would turn their camp into a powerful stronghold once more. They were well prepared, quickly setting up everything. One giant building after another was built. As they did that, the demonic beasts on the battlefield didn't even look at them. They were still busy assaulting Yilingfeng and the others in a crazy assault. Is this the effect of the bewitching medicine? Shen Chengfeng suddenly came to a realization. Yes, it definitely is. After all, they aren't humans, so it's easy to stimulate their desires. They're so crazy that they're even killing some of their comrades. Do the divine families not know this? Asked Long Chen. Shen Chengfeng shook his head. Perhaps the senior generation might know more about it, but I never knew. Even if I did, it wouldn't matter. Wouldn't using that medicine against them just be conning myself? That's not entirely true. In this berserk state, they'll follow you wherever you lead them. As long as you have a trap set up, the demonic beasts will come charging in. It can greatly increase your efficiency. You get to decide how to best use the tools at your disposal, said Long Chen. Reporting, the formation platforms have been built. Are the defenses to be set up? Reported one warrior. The 36 formation platforms were the connections to the underground formation. It could summon a powerful barrier that would prove that they had taken back their camp. Shen Chengfeng was about to give the order to activate it when he looked toward Long Chen. Brother Long, are we activating it? Long Chen shook his head. Not yet. Activating the formation first will make it more time-consuming to set up the other formation platforms. There's no threat to us yet, so we should get the most out of it. Set up the offensive formation platforms. There are the arrow towers and such that need to be set up. Just have the necessary people standing by to activate the defensive formation at a moment's notice. Shen Chengfeng nodded and had that warrior follow those instructions. In just these few days, he had learned many things from Long Chen. Long Chen, Shen Chengfeng, neither one of you will have a good death. Suddenly, a hoarse and hysterical voice rang out from within the crazed roaring of the demonic beasts. It seems that he's cursing us. Long Chen shrugged. Reporting to the commander, a portion of the offensive platforms has also been set up. Another warrior came running over. Long Chen smiled. While the formation wasn't active, it was very quick to set up the formation platforms. Activate it. The earth trembled and one platform after another lit up. A light blue curtain of light gradually condensed in the sky. It started off frail-looking, as if it might tear with the slightest touch, but as the energy of the platforms entered it, it quickly strengthened. Following that, countless runes began to appear within it, strengthening it even further. The grand formation had been summoned. Shen Chengfeng finally felt a weight fall off his shoulders. All the heavenly dragon warriors cheered. What are you shouting for? If you want to celebrate, then go all out. Brothers, start the drums and gongs. Light the firecrackers and sing. Long Chen waved his hand. Only at that moment did Shen Chengfeng understand why Long Chen had wanted those things. A loud clamor began to ring out of the camp. It was like beating the drums and making noise was unburdening them of their resentment. Damn! Long Chen felt his ears and soul shaking. These fellows really knew how to make noise. It was so bad that he himself was in pain. However, the warriors were immersed in their delight and almost seemed to be competing with each other to see who could make the most noise. Some drums and gongs were broken in their excitement from a bad hit. Even if they didn't have an instrument, they would start banging their weapons together. Shen Chengfeng shouted, "Is there a need for us to suffer like this?" However, he couldn't even hear himself. "What did you say?" transmitted Long Chen. Shen Chengfeng repeated himself through a spiritual transmission. Of course, those fellows will definitely be feeling 10 times worse than us. Long Chen snickered. "This really is tough to endure," grumbled Shen Chengfeng. "Well, we're not professional musicians. As long as it makes them happy, even farting can become beautiful." As the 8th Legion unleashed a clamor, Yiling Feng almost coughed up blood. Long Chen had used him to reclaim the 8th Legion's camp without spilling a drop of blood. He saw that the formation had been set up. The clamor coming from their celebration wasn't even drowned out by the roars of the demonic beasts. As a result, he really coughed up a mouthful of blood. "Long Chen, if I don't tear your corpse to pieces, I won't be surnamed Yi," roared Yiling Feng. His hatred for Long Chen had reached an indescribable level. "Commander, the demonic beasts are attacking too fiercely. The energy of the divine dragon tyrant crossbow will only last for half an incense stick's worth of time. Our reinforcements are still in our way." "It doesn't seem like they'll make it," said the vice commander. Although they had been a bit panicked at the beginning, they had calmed back down after the distress signal had been sent out and they received a reply. The thing that had caught them off guard was how fierce these demonic beasts were. They were charging forward so recklessly that they were rapidly draining the 3rd Legion's energy reserves. Even a Heaven Elder would be unable to endure such a terrifying assault. "Commander, our only option is to beg Long Chen for help," said that vice commander. "You're dreaming. I'd rather die," roared Yiling Feng. "Commander, as long as people are alive, they have a chance at vengeance," replied the vice commander. Yiling Feng ground his teeth. Seeing the endless army of demonic beasts as well as the runes of the divine dragon tyrant crossbow starting to fade, he smashed his fist against the ground. "Long Chen, I have something to say to you," shouted Yiling Feng, transmitting his voice far into the distance. However, even after shouting 3 times, he didn't receive a reply. This made him feel so angry that his face turned purple. "They want us to die." Yiling Feng's teeth almost broke from how hard he was grinding them. "No, they can't. They clearly have the power to save us. If they refuse to help, that would go against the rules of the divine families. Shen Chengfeng and the others would be executed, with only the regular warriors getting off with stern punishment. They wouldn't dare to do that. Long Chen is intentionally making noise to drown out our requests for aid. That way, he has an excuse to ignore us. We have to use a distress signal so that he has no excuse, said the vice commander. Fine, release the distress signal. An arrow shot out toward the camp, but the distance between them was too great. It exploded midway, unleashing a dazzle of light. Long Chen waved his hand to get the warriors to quieten down, but they seemed to be enraptured in their noise-making. Only when the people beside them kicked them did they stop. When everyone stopped, Shin Chengfeng sighed with relief. He suddenly felt that having the world be quiet was an exceptionally wonderful thing. If this had continued, he probably would have vomited. Long Chen, we are surrounded by danger. Do you dare to just watch without helping? Roared Yi Lingfeng. This is how he begs for help? Long Chen's expression became odd. These are the rules of the divine families. If you have the power to help but just watch, the leaders will be executed, while the others will be expelled. Even if Yi Lingfeng remains this arrogant, we have no choice, said Shin Chengfeng. What about when they were conning you? Since they dared to do that, it meant that they were confident in escaping from the consequences. All rules have loopholes within them. Just listen to me and I guarantee that there won't be any mishaps, said Long Chen. He then shouted toward the battlefield. Yi Lingfeng, are you begging me for help? It seems that your attitude doesn't fit that. Long Chen, don't give me that crap. If we die, you'll also meet a miserable fate. Roared Yi Lingfeng. Fine, you've won. We'll save you right now. Brothers, fire your arrows. Long Chen waved his hand. A rain of arrows fell that made Yi Lingfeng tremble with rage. Long Chen, you go too far. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.